Hello and welcome back to the Goat Cave podcast. Today we have a very special guest. I haven't seen this guy in so fucking long, and this guy would be Chris Brown.
Hello,
How's it going? So before we jump into the interview here, I've just got a couple things that I want to plug here. So last week we had the Fids on the show. So if you haven't checked that episode out, you've got to go and do that. That dude is a BMX legend, and he's also the baddest motherfucker on the planet. Like, the guy has a giant skeleton hand giving you the middle finger on his back. Like, that's his literal back tattoo. That is fucking crazy. So fucking cool. And then tomorrow we have Dustin Lee on the show. Join us as we chat about being the main guy behind Rodeo Peanut and what it's like to be a pro BMX rider and what he's been up to for these past few years. And Chris, today's guest is a BMX photographer from Burlington, Ontario. He's also a BMX rider and the leader of the Sponge crew at Inflow.
Yeah,
He's been shooting super rad photos over the last few years, and I'm super excited to have him here with us today. Chris Brown, how are you, my dude?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you?
Wonderful. So, first question here. How do you feel about Rihanna?
Oh, she's cool.
She's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She has some good music. Some
There
good
you go.
bangers.
You're not pushing her out of your car. There you
Yeah.
go. So what I like to do on the show is I like to actually talk about, where everybody started in BMX. So what was the first bike you owned and how long ago was it?
Gosh, I really want to say that was about 10 years ago or something. I got into this BMX a bit later. Just I was maybe 15 or 16. I always rode moto and did a lot of like mountain biking and stuff. But then I kind of got more and more into BMX just because there's not a lot of mountains to be had in Burlington, Ontario, and a bunch of my friends rode. So my first bike was a We the People Versus Complete, which
Nice.
is like to a lot of people, it's like, oh, like my first bike was like some like awful Diamondback or whatever, just like, or something that broke within like 2 weeks. But now that I had like a really amazing bike right away, and actually I'm still running that frame now, just on my garbage street bike that I titled the Bro SS. It holds up, but I'm looking for something else soon enough.
Yeah, those We the People completes are actually really good bikes, man, to start out with. The first bike that I started with was just like a shitty rusty Diamondback, exactly what you were saying, from like somebody's backyard. And then I got a Miracle Black Pearl, if you remember that frame.
Oh yeah.
Like that complete. That was like the best. Let's see. What's your favorite trick right now?
Gosh, I think anyone who knows me knows that, like, will say that I have whips pretty much on lock, and that's usually the go-to trick for most situations. But I'd have to say my favorite trick is probably like a no foot can.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
like such a good looking trick too, right?
Yeah, it's just something you can do. It's something that you can do anywhere. It's super stylish, and it's also kind of a trick that not a lot of people think of doing nowadays. Like it's kind of a trick that's not all that common, especially kind of in more modern street riding. Like unless you're like a trail dude or whatever, you're not doing them. So to be able to like bring no foot cans to like say like a street spot or something is something I've always really enjoyed doing.
It's such a cool looking trick, and I agree with you, man. Like just doing it on street is so much cooler than, doing it in like just off a flyout or whatever.
Oh yeah, like even over like a jump and stuff, it's just one of those tricks that you do it, it's just fully extended and you can just float it and it just never gets boring. But being able to like do it down like doing that down a set of stairs or something, it's just something that's different and just completely random that no one expects.
Yeah, I suck at that trick. I really need to get better at it because I would love to be able to do that like over a gap or something, just a nice no foot can.
Oh yeah,
That's like, I'm trying to think if I filmed any no foot cans for my BMX DVD Space Goats. I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think that there was none, which sucks. I'm like, that's such a good looking trick. It's like easy.
We'll get one soon enough.
Yeah. It's such an easy trick to forget about, I think, because it is like overlooked.
Oh yeah, like I'd say I've always done them, but I've always just kind of liked them. Just whenever I did BMX stuff, just because I come from a moto background, I've always wanted to do more tricks that kind of translated to one or the other. So I was way more about doing that stuff, like those kinds of tricks, for a while. But then I realized just because you're used to moving around on the bike a lot more and in the air and stuff, it does help with a lot more tricks later on.
Oh, of course. Yeah, moto is like, to me, it always blows my mind that people will do shit on a motocross bike. Like, it's so gnarly. Because on a BMX bike, like, stuff just makes sense to me. But, like, going so fast at a jump on a motorbike, Like even just to gap it is fucking gnarly. But then people throw in like flips and
Oh
everything.
yeah.
Like that's so crazy.
Yeah, like that stuff's nuts. Like, the whole kind of freestyle motocross thing, it pretty much was it was pretty much just a byproduct of doing stuff on BMX bikes. Like all those dudes rode BMX back in the days.
Yeah.
But then it kind of just became nuts with it.
I always find that people that ride motocross have the best style when they switch to BMX because they're so used to going fast, right? Like,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
or at least like people that do BMX racing too is like that is the same thing, I would say.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like even BMX racing, you just understand that bike control a lot more. But then with moto, you're just used to doing things a lot faster, and you're used to muscling around a 200-pound bike.
Oh, of course.
So as soon as you get on like a BMX bike, it's like, oh, this thing only weighs 20 pounds. It's so much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't go as fast, but
Yeah, you know how to throw it around and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It takes some of the fear out too. I mean, look at Bazanson or Kyle Hoyer, like those.
Yeah, those guys are nuts, man. I like that it's like we're comparing Kyle Hoyer to Drew Bazanson, but that dude is so fucking gnarly that it's like it's so true. Hoyer is like the funniest guy. So you had the King of the Sponge contest at Inflow with Station, like Adam from Station,
Yeah.
and like just tell us about that because Kyle won that.
Okay, so around this time last year, like Adam said he wanted to try and figure out a jam at Inflow or just like a little contest or whatever. And because I had my own little inside joke about Team Sponge or whatever, which is just basically like this inside joke between three people about riding Resi. Like the kind of the origins of the whole Sponge thing was I was just at Inflow one day or something, and like I think it was some people were sessioning it or whatever, and then someone was kind of hating on Resi just because.
Just because you hate on Resi.
Yeah, there's those people in the world. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just if you have your opinions about it, live your life.
Yeah.
But I just jokingly called it a sponge, and I don't know. It just kind of became a huge inside joke, like between I think 3 or 4 people, and just blew up into being a huge thing. So then, when Adam did the jam, I said, "Hey, like I really want to contribute to this, but specifically like I want to do a best trick on the Resi, so we could have it be like the Team Sponge King of the Resi contest or whatever." But the idea was I wanted the grand prize to be what we started calling the Foam Pit Starter Pack, which was basically just a bucket of sponges. Which like I really just wanted to do that just because I wanted to like have like or see like whoever won it. I just wanted to see the look on their face between like finding out they won it and expecting like something really amazing, like a huge prize or whatever, but then just getting a bucket of sponges. Like I just imagined, like I won't name names because there's no point, but I just could imagine some kid just doing like a huge like 720 quad bar or something on it, then winning and being like yeah, hey, congratulations, here's a bucket of sponges.
It's so funny.
Yeah, which is great. But then kind of on the day of the contest, we decided to just do a long jump on the Resi instead, which
I think is so much better of an idea because a fucking long jump on a box jump like that it just doesn't make any sense because like you're literally sending yourself to flat. Like there's no other way. And like to me, it's always the best when people have to go as fast as they fucking can at something. Like it's just, yeah, I think it was awesome to do that.
Oh yeah, like especially at Inflow, the way the Resi set up, it's against a wall, but then it's the box jump, which isn't that big to begin with. It's primarily designed for the scooter crowd, but then it goes into a quarter pipe landing, so it's really easy to go way too far and land in the transition for the quarter pipe, which I think Kyle was eventually starting to do.
He was literally landing like if he would have gone 2 cranks faster, which by the way, you can't fucking do that at Inflow. It's small. Like there's no way that you can go 2 cranks faster than he already was. If he was able to do 2 cranks faster, he would absolutely be gapping to fakie on the other fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like he was so close to already hitting it.
Yeah, like I remember, like it was just like the way we did it was just 15 minutes, just send it and just see what happens. And I went up to him after and I was like, what is the likelihood that if you just gave it like 1 crank more, you could basically like 180 pocket into the landing of the Resi? And he's like, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he try it?
He didn't, but it was just kind of like this was the last thing we did for the day, so it was kind of winding down and stuff. And
Yeah.
we were all kind of on the high of, sponges and Baja Blast. So
There you go.
but maybe next year, who knows?
Yeah, that'd be fucking sick.
Yeah.
I love Kyle, man. So like when we were filming Space Goats, I gave him like just a little 45-second thing in the friends section, but then he also had like a separate thing, which was just him, basically fucking around being Kyle. So in the friends section, he filmed some like pretty cool clips. Like there's one where he does like it's really Tate Ross Kelly inspired fucking 180 onto a milk crate thing, and then like spin around on it a bunch and then hop off. But then we took him to this huge like 15 stair death rail where it's like drop on the other side, huge stairs, rail is fucking tall, and totally like first try hops on, does the whole rail, pulls it. So he got the ender for the second friend section in Space Goats. But then this like little minute long section we had of just him fucking around, he's trying to do this like kinked rail in front of these apartments. It's a really weird like square shitty kinked rail thing, and he just ends up like almost pulling it a couple times. Then he just starts getting naked, like literally takes off his fucking clothes. He's in his boxers. He's in his boxers with a fucking windbreaker on, and he pulls it. And then when he lands, he throws his bike on the ground and literally starts taking off his fucking shirt and his windbreaker, running in the middle of the fucking road down the street. And that was like the funniest fucking thing ever.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'll definitely have to show you that once we're done.
Oh,
but it
please.
was, oh my God, it's
Yeah.
so fucking funny. It's like such a Kyle thing to do.
Oh yeah, like all those guys, all the Georgetown locals, like Kyle, Nate, Cody, Cody, who I've known for probably close to a decade or something now.
Yeah.
They're all amazing writers, but they're also they have the wildest personalities too, and they're just so down to do anything and just hang out and do whatever. So they're honestly some of my favorite people to hang out with and ride with. Them and Zach Sisvanik.
Nice.
Yeah, he's just like the most wildest person ever.
Yeah.
He can just do anything.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, I always feel like, when you're in a close friend group like that, because they all are friends, when you're that close, like, you really start to feed off of other people's riding, right? So they're all ridiculously good riders because they hang out with each other. I feel like that's a big thing, that if you want to push your riding, you need to start riding with people that are like 10 times better than you, because at some point they're going to start pushing you, being like, what the fuck, man, just do it.
Oh, exactly. Like I've known Cody Fry for about probably like 8 or 9 years now, and honestly, he's the only reason I've probably learned any trick.
Cody is insane.
He's absolutely wild on a bike. Like, you could just say, oh, do anything, like just go do this, and he'll do it like first or second try. But he also just has that personality where like he'll kind of just instigate you to do things.
Yeah. That guy is fucking tall too. It's hilarious.
Yeah,
I think
he's 6'7" or something, like 6'6".
He's absolutely the tallest dude in the world to do a triple flip on a BMX bike.
Oh yeah,
like he's gotta be. It's so crazy. I can't believe that he fucking pulled that either.
Yeah. Gosh, my favorite thing to see him do is I really like seeing him do like just like tail whips and stuff, and just like, or any trick that involves taking off feet. Like I started getting him in the habit of doing no foot cans, just purely because I wanted to see him just stretch it out that far, Yeah. Like he's all leg, so literally anytime he takes his feet off, it looks like his feet are just like a mile away from his bike. It's
so funny. Oh man. So since we were talking a little bit about like, how Cody and everything, I'm trying to remember how we actually met, because it was so long ago.
Yeah.
This is when I was filming. This might have been before I was filming Fuck Asses or during the time that I was filming Fuck Asses. I can't remember.
I kind of want to say it was before. I
think it was before.
Yeah, like I kind of want to say like just through other people, like just
I think we met at Norton. I think that was like
Norton or Inflow, I don't know. Like, it's one of those two, which are pretty much the only two places I ride anymore.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think it was just hanging out with all your crew and stuff, and all Eric and Adam and everyone.
Yeah.
Like, and I'd already like known them somewhat, and then finally we were just just a friend of a friend. We just kind of started hanging out,
Yeah, and fucking, I've always loved the way you ride too. So it's kind of cool to be able to like, because all of my friends are typically like they're street riders, and
Mm.
at heart, I'm a street rider. Like
Yeah.
all the stuff that I do now is all street. Like I haven't even rode in fucking weeks because I don't want to ride outside because it's freezing cold out, and I don't want to ride a park because it's just to me like I'm kind of over park riding. I've done it so much, but street riding is a lot of fun. But I think that like back when I met you, I was more of a park rider, and they were
Mhm.
all street guys. So it was really cool to like see somebody else that also rode like park riding, I guess.
Yeah, like I've definitely like when I first started riding, I was definitely more of a street rider kind of in the beginning, only just because a box jump or like a good ramp or anything, it's kind of uncommon to find in most situations unless you're have an indoor park to yourself and whatnot. So street riding and stuff is a little more appealing, but just kind of because I had a moto background, it just doing just jumping and being in the air and stuff just made a little more sense. But at the same time, like I kind of just want to ride everything, like life's too short to only want to ride one thing. I say that
of
now.
course.
I say that now as someone who only rides Norton and is like religiously only riding Fly Out and Sponge all day, but
That's
total
whatever.
setup. But I mean, I can still, I'll still enjoy a good street session. It's just not something I do all the time, just because.
Well, I feel like the crew in Burlington really don't ride street that often. I don't know how much street there really is. I've only ever rode like any time that I've gone to Burlington, we ride Norton. We go and ride the skate park near the ditches, and then we just hop the fence and start riding the ditches, and that's it. Like
pretty much that's it. There's
I feel like
there's not much
everything's
street to be had in Burlington, which is kind of annoying, but whatever. It's what you do.
I don't really know Burlington that well, but I feel like there really isn't too much of like a downtown core, which is where you'll find street all the time. I don't really know, like I've never bothered to look up any of the schools or anything like that because when you go to a new city, the first thing you should be doing if you're trying to be ride a street is start looking up the schools on Google, look up churches, and then look at like downtown and figure out where everything is, because a lot of the time you're going to find really good spots at schools, universities, churches, or like downtown core. You can almost guarantee there's going to be at least one good spot.
Yeah, Burlington is kind of like that. I mean, we do have our staple spots, but as far as the downtown goes, there isn't really anything except because it's so built up and everything's so kind of like more modern, high security. Everything's either capped at this point or it's like in a high security area.
Yeah, they just have security guards.
And even then, it's it's like, oh, there's a flat ledge here, or there's like a slightly nicer flat ledge here, but there's usually security, so you can only ride there at like evening, unlike a Saturday evening, like at 2 a.m. or whatever. There are a few like really iconic spots, mainly the downtown or the sea ledges, even though it's Lake Ontario. It's right on the lake. There's the ditch, which is kind of the go-to, and then there's also double kink trails down by the water as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, then or the one really iconic one is the Notre Dame handrail. It's up near. It's not in the downtown. It's more near where I live. It's about maybe 10 minutes or so away from Norton, not even. But it's basically this really long and low handrail. Like I haven't even been to it in years, so I completely forget how long it is. But it's only about maybe stem height, so it's more than capable to jump on. But you're literally on it for like probably like a good 15 seconds or so. Like you have time to catch your breath and think about what you're doing while you're going down it.
I feel like I've seen clips or like photos of it, but I've never been there. I'm gonna have to fucking figure out if I can find it.
I'm trying to think. Like I know a lot of really cool stuff's down it. The one thing that always sticks out to me is, even though it's on a scooter, a good buddy of mine that I go to school with, Cam McRobbie, he did this is on a scooter, but he did a board slide to whip out on it. And and I was like, shit, I think you got that. I think you did it like second try or something.
That's crazy.
For BMX, I know Shark Williams, Phil, he did it pegless. And then he also did it 180 on, backwards 180 out.
Damn.
Yeah. And I want to say I forget who it was, but it was in I think it was in one of the foo parts. One of those guys did a lucky down it, but it took him like 50 tries, so it was like ended up being like the special, like the deleted scenes or whatever was just all the clips of him doing it.
Yeah.
I want to say it was Dan Kauke or something, or
Dan's crazy. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Or
That
or
dude's
Sons of
fucking
Danarchy
crazy.
if he's on his motorcycle.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Sons of Danarchy.
Yeah. Yeah. All the. Yeah.
That's so
Adam from
good.
Station just said that one day, and it's it's the
That
funniest
has
thing.
got to be the
Yeah.
greatest nickname ever.
Yeah, that's just when he's out on his Harley.
Yeah.
But like the Notre Dame handrail, it's not a high hop, and if you can lock into it, you're pretty much golden. It's a square rail, so it's ideal. But the hardest thing is you have to go on it right from the sidewalk. So I did it. I think I at least tried it back when I was like 17 or something, like just starting out. But it took me like literally an hour to just think about like how do you even line up for it, because you either have to go from the sidewalk hard right turn into it and then hop on,
Or
or just gap
run-up.
on it from the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, those ones are always weird. I feel like that would be a really good one to do, like, if you have to go onto the sidewalk from the street. I don't know how long it is. Bet it'd be a really I bet it'd be a really good manual to pegs rail.
Yeah, it's actually like just considering like how low it is and stuff. It's like probably the most ideal handrail
To do manual to pegs.
Yeah,
That's really cool. I've never seen it. So, and it's a
Yeah.
different rail than I was thinking of, because the rail I was thinking of is in front of a church.
Yeah.
So it's a little different, but that sounds really cool. I'd love to fucking see that one day. Okay, what else do I got here? So we talked about your favorite trick. What was the hardest trick for you to learn?
Probably whips.
Whips?
Yeah,
Whips are like, I still don't have them like as good as I should.
yeah. It's one of those things like when doing whips, it's just one of those tricks where it first off takes a while, but the hard thing is there's so many things that just kind of have to go right with it that you don't learn right away. I learned them a long time ago now, so I've kind of figured out how to kind of perfect it, or at least like I can figure out what people are doing wrong.
Yeah.
And so like I kind of know what to do, but it took me like probably a solid year and a half of trying, and even then I was still like, I landed one, like was kind of getting them, and then it was probably another 6 months before I was even like getting them consistently, or at least like this doesn't feel awkward.
And now you're like consistently doing 3 whips.
I wouldn't say consistently, but
I've seen you do them though,
mhm.
or at least like you're getting pretty close on attempting them and shit.
Yeah, I can at least like consistently get 270. For some, like I have a really bad habit of just trying to cheat it. Like when I do them, I've seen like videos of myself where I'm way more concerned with trying to get with
just getting back on.
Yeah, like, or not even. It's more so I know that I always think if I can get the whip, I can just worry about the last. I don't have to worry about the last little bit of the 3.
Yeah.
Because when you do like 180 whips and like 3 whips and stuff, you have to pull really hard, because the bike's rotation does slow you down. Like when I was learning 180 whips, I was like, if I was pulling but not throwing it, I would like unintentionally like over rotate a 3, and then I think when I was like trying to finally like learn 3 whips more and more, I was like, I unintentionally did a 5 more than once.
Damn.
Like you just have to give it that a little bit more juice to it, But
I've always tried 3 whips into the foam pit, like at Joyride, and I always go like, I'm going into it knowing that I'm not gonna pull it, because I fucking go as fast as I can and literally like 10 feet up, just the slowest whip, and like I can never get it. I can get like the 270, but I can never catch the bike. That's like the pain. I suck at catching whips though. Like I consistently, if I want to roll away from one, I will roll away from it, but I have never actually put my left foot back on the pedal. It's always like left foot catches the frame and then right foot goes back on. But I can do them anywhere. Like I've done them down stair sets, I've done them on hips, I've done down whips, like on quarters, shit like that. But it's just I cannot land it unless I put my foot on the frame. So I have to get out of that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I actually never had that problem, which was really weird considering like everyone who I know has like kind of has done that. Usually for me it was either just right to cranks or just, I didn't land it at all, which is kind of weird, but I mean
it's a good way to learn though.
It's a good problem to have, I guess.
I think the problem is that before I started learning whips, I really didn't do any no-foot tricks. I just wanted to learn how to do a tail whip. And even now, I suck at no-foot tricks. Like, I can barely do them. Like, I can do, like, I'm really good at doing, like, 1 foot off or anything like that. Like, I love to do a really good can-can. Like, those are fucking fun.
Oh.
But I still suck at those too. Like I can never
Yeah.
get them as consistent as I want.
Yeah, like I think a lot of it is just you have to just be used to moving around your bike and just, I've always kind of looked at tricks as kind of a sequential thing where it's like if you do this, excuse me, if you can do one thing, then you can do something else. Like when you're starting out, it's like, oh, I can 180, so that means I can 180, or I can 180 flat, so that means I can like 180 off a curb or like out of a bank or out of a quarter, and then like or like hop onto that curb, and then it's like, oh, if I can do a no footer, then I can do like a can or like no foot can or you
Yeah,
know,
I guess that's just a natural progression, right?
yeah. Like I've kind of always looked at doing tricks as more of like if I can do this, then does that mean I can do this, which I think is just kind of like how I think, or at least like from the moto background, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've always kind of thought that way, but that's just me.
that's fair.
Yeah, bar spins also gave me a really hard time too. Like I have bar spins pretty consistently now, but I could not for the life of me get them for the longest time.
I'm too much of a pussy to even fucking try them, man. Like
Yeah,
I taught a fucking 12-year-old kid how to do a bar spin because I know how to do them. I know everything on how to do it, but I'm too much of a bitch to actually fucking throw the bars and do it. And for years, it was just one of those tricks where, like, I think that myself personally, I think that bar spins are just overrated. I think that people do them so often, they're overused. They're such a like trick that people praise when they really shouldn't. Like to me, a bar spin is really only cool if you're gonna do a bar spin down a big gap, or if you're gonna do a bar spin to table on a quarter. But over the last like couple months, I've really been thinking I gotta fucking learn it because everybody does them. It's a staple trick in BMX, and I gotta stop being a salty young man about bar spins. I need to start,
yeah.
it's a trick that I feel like if I never did it, I'd be kind of sad that I never did it. So maybe I should fucking learn it.
Yeah, like I was definitely the same way where I was just like, okay, well I have whips on lock, but like I need to get bars now. It seems like kind of the next, logical step. But then yeah, I had the same thing where I just had the huge block on it, but then just wasn't anything bar spins are just a really weird trick just because, you can think about it all day long. You can get in the air, you can get in position, you can like have the muscle memory to throw the bars and stuff, but you just eventually there's just a point of you just have to send it and just know that you're gonna miss your hands a few times on it, or like it's gonna stop your front wheel's gonna catch on your foot a few times and you're gonna potentially get the side of your bars right to your junk or whatever. So you kind of just have to accept that and move on, or at least do it.
I think that the reason that people like struggle with bars so much is the fact that it is like you have to send that trick. There's no safe zone. Like in a whip, it's really easy for the most part to get out of a whip if you're not going to pull it. Like, you can always put your feet down. That was the thing with me, is that whips were easy to learn because, you can always just put your foot back on the ground. And like tables, same thing. Nothing ever leaves the bike. So as long as you can bring it back, you can somewhat roll away from it. Like I'm really good at tricks that don't require any extremities coming off the bike, But
yeah, like that's exactly with bar spins. It's just like you just have to finally just say, screw it, I'm gonna get hurt, I may as well just send it.
Yeah.
Which it's not the worst, like a worst case scenario, especially if you're like only learning it like on like a mellow bank or hop or something. Like I think most kids are doing hop bars nowadays first above anything else.
I feel like I wouldn't. I feel like I'd need to do it fly out first.
Oh yeah, same. Like I like to think I have bars pretty consistently now, but I for some reason have not figured out the hot bar yet.
Fair.
Yeah, I used to think that like that bar spins were kind of overrated and stuff, like when I couldn't do them. But then I had a complete change of heart when I saw crank flips take over.
Fair.
Crank flips kind of took over the overrated, like the trick. I can't talk. It became the trick that everyone was like, "Oh, I can do this," and it's like the coolest thing ever.
I remember, like, it wasn't even that long ago, like 6-7 years ago, when crank flips were like the gayest trick ever. Yeah. Like, I hate to use that fucking phrase, and I'm using it so wrong, but at the same time,
man.
Dude, it was so lame. Like, that trick was like, ugh, a crank flip, and now it's like everybody does them everywhere, and it's such it's such a staple trick now for most BMX riders that ride street. And like it's still a trick that I fucking refuse to learn because I just don't want to. Like
like I'm the exact same way, which first off, it's kind of out of a result of just running my cranks as tight as I do.
Yeah.
Like, you know how tight I run my cranks.
Oh, of
like,
course. Gotta get those 3 whips, man.
Yeah, crank flips just aren't happening. But to me, it's one of those tricks where it's like, if you're just doing it like on flat ground or something, or like, I have nothing against ETs necessarily, but I kind of use it in the same argument where if you're counting a trick as just being able to like have the pedals do a 360 rotation or like have the cranks, then to me it's like, oh, if that's a trick, then you're basically saying the act of pedaling is a trick.
Fair.
Which is kind of that, but also for me crank flips kind of became that trick where it's like, I'll just do it and then I won't have to learn another trick. Like I know there's so many kids that I see nowadays where they'll just learn 180s, feeble grinds, and crank flips, and that's like will literally be the only 3 tricks they do, and then they have no desire to learn any other tricks, or they just kind of think, oh, I'll just do those same 3 things, like, and then feel good about myself,
Yeah, I think my favorite variation trick though is definitely a 360 ET or 180 ET, because people can't do them. Like,
it's
if you're ever playing a game of bike, if you can do an ET and you can do a 180 ET, dude, anybody that runs a coaster, if you're a cassette rider like me, the second that you throw a 180 ET in a game of bike, all you're going to hear about for the next 5 minutes is, fuck, man, it engages my coaster. I can't do it. It's just it's not possible. I can't do that trick on my bike. Like, okay, we'll do it on my bike then. Yeah. No.
Moral of the story, write a cassette. Like it's like I got nothing against like.
I think that trick is only cool if you do it with a variation.
Yeah,
right?
Like that's how I feel about crank flips. It's like if you're just doing it like off a curb or a hop or something, like just that on its own, it's the dumbest thing ever to me. Like I'm sorry to all the crank flippers of the world. I have a lot of good friends who like exclusively do crank flips, and I'm sorry to disrespect those guys, or no disrespect, I mean. But to me, it's a lot cooler if there's just like something else in it. Like if you do like it into a grind or like out of a grind, or if you like find a way to link it up with another trick, then it's cool. Like there's a really old Instagram clip that I want to say Kevin Porter did where he did a tail whip crank flip, or it's a really old Insta clip Devin Smiley did where he did a three whip crank flip.
That's kind of cool.
Which I'm like, I saw that and I was like, dude, like, as like, I mean, this was before I was really throwing 3 whips and stuff, but like as someone I could tail whip, so I'm like, dude, like there's so much going on that already. Like how much confidence do you need to have in your ability to crank flip where you can do a 3 whip, then just spin the cranks backwards in the process and still think it's all gonna link up at the same time.
Yeah, I've always seen like Justin Skinner from Joyride. He does whip crank flips, and like that trick to me just doesn't make any sense. Like, because as somebody who does whips, like your feet really need to be in place. Like I guess it's not that much harder, but to me, like it's just one more thing to go wrong. Work. Yeah, that's fair. Alrighty, let's jump into some other things here. So how did you get into taking photos, and how long have you been actually a photographer?
Gosh, I don't really like as much as like a exclusive photographer. I think probably like the past maybe 4 or 5 years now. I kind of just got into it because I think you could agree with me on this here that as doing like as someone who does like BMX or anyone who skates or does moto or whatever, does these extreme sports, is you essentially eventually you want to film it.
Yeah, you got to do something.
Yeah, like it's just, even if it's just like, the iPhone clip or whatever, you eventually want to film it. And like me, I was no different. Like I always want to do, like, I always enjoyed doing like the filming and video stuff, especially in street, because I'm not a street rider in the slightest. So at times if everyone else was killing it and I was kind of like just chilling or whatever, it
kind of makes sense just to start taking photos, right?
Yeah, or doing video and stuff. And then I started going to school, and then I kind of wanted to go to school for more to do more like television and film and stuff. But then when I was kind of looking into the schooling for it, like I saw how that worked, but then also how photography worked, and I kind of just, the more I thought about it, the more just photography kind of just appealed to me. Like it was more about just getting out and just shooting right away. Yeah. And then so I kind of just focused more and more on just doing stills.
That's fair. That's a really good point. Myself personally, when I first started doing photos, it was kind of just something that made sense to me. Was like, I got a really good deal on a camera and I really wanted to just start doing something. And I always felt that people weren't like, that our friend group had something special, but we couldn't show it to anybody because nobody was gonna do it. And I feel like that's a lot of what I do in BMX is just the fact that I personally feel that nobody else is going to be able to do it, so I might as well because I want to be able to do it. I want to put the time in. And truly to me, like filming and, taking photos and doing these BMX jams and even my podcast now, it's all for one thing, and it's the love of BMX. I love this sport so much, and I wouldn't even call it a sport, you know what I mean? I hate to be that fucking cringy guy. It's a lifestyle, but to me, my entire life revolves around this. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
And I think that, it was nice when I started taking photos, it was a good way to really start to learn something else because my life has always been BMX since I started it. Beforehand, it was like, all I did was just, before I started, BMX riding, all I did was play video games, and that's fine. Like, I still play a lot of video games, but I think it's like, I like to do something. How do I put it? Like something that's actually going to progress my life, I guess, and
or just
teaches me something. Productive. But yeah, like when I started doing video stuff, it was really to show that like our friend group is such a different thing, and that like we're all good enough riders to fill up, a 4-minute section each and be able to show off exactly what we do. And one of the things that I really started to like when I got into it was the fact that you can show people off and you can show, those moments of where somebody is struggling so fucking hard to get something and then they finally do it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like I think that photos are a lot different because you don't get that, but I do think that it does tell a story in itself, right?
Yeah, like I enjoy filming and I enjoy doing stills and stuff, but I kind of just enjoyed more. I kind of just fell in love more with doing like stills after a while, or that's kind of just where things went for me. But the one thing, like probably one of my favorite quotes, I forget, it was either by Hadrian Picard or Tristan Affray, who are two really well-known BMX photographers. They said the difference, like the one difference between filming video, filming something and doing a photo is with a clip, you get the beginning, middle, and end. You see it there, and if you know what you're doing, you'll probably shoot 5 seconds either side of it just so you're not cutting anything out or missing anything. But with a photo, like with a good photo, you get that from just a still, so you get that from just like 1/1000th of a second. Yeah,
exactly.
So that kind of made me think about how I shot differently, or at least like in the action sports stuff, because it kind of made me transition more into doing like more stuff outside of that as well, or like looking at other things than just BMX and skateboarding. But then it kind of made me a lot more conscious about what I shot, because it's like you could just like have some you just like have a shot right then and there, like have something and it's cool, but it would be better if you kind of got the idea of it, or the most successful photos, you kind of understand everything from that.
Yeah. So here's something that I didn't write down, but I kind of want to jump into this. For you as a mainly photographer guy within BMX and also everything else that you're shooting, how do you feel about print media being kind of a dead medium now? Because to me, there was always something special about having a magazine with those photos in it, right? And now it's like, it's not dead because it's on your phone, but I think that people overlook stuff way easier.
Yeah, exactly. That's totally it. With kind of the rise of digital media, or the more emphasis on it, I think everything's a little more momentary. Like not so much of like it's just something it's just not just like a 20-second video on Instagram or whatever, just something you quickly scroll through and that's the end of it. As much as it is that, the one thing as far as being a photographer in the action sports world, or like wanting to kind of go in that direction for a career or whatnot, the one thing I've always been concerned about, or one thing is, how do I market stills, or how do I like make a living doing that, especially after the past year or so when all the Transworld publications ceased to exist. Long story short, the publishing company that owned all the Transworld publications, so like Ride BMX, Transworld, snowboarding, skateboarding, motocross, all those ones, the company was bought out, and then the company that took over didn't want them, just said, oh no, we're not doing this anymore. So basically all those magazines were out of a job, and some of them had been around for like 30 or 40 years. Like, so that was kind of like the the last like real major, commercial publication. But as far as like how I feel about it, I'm not too worried if you kind of think about it, because
there's still a big market for stills. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like,
people still need them. Like,
yeah,
it's still, to me, as somebody that like, I don't know, look around me here. You know, I have so much shit that like I just love, and like my entire desk is filled with just stills of other people. But it's all something that means, something to me. But also like, there's something different about holding something in your hand rather than on your phone.
Exactly. Yeah. Some of like, I think even though there's not a lot of magazine publications anymore, like not a lot of like major magazines that, consistently put out an issue every, month or two, there's still like, if you do your research, there's a lot of magazines still being printed, but they're more independent. They're maybe more quarterly and stuff. And it's not so much of a, hey, like, here's like a random trip that this team went on, or like, here's, these new parts that we're showing off or whatever from a company. It's more of just, hey, this is just something that we did that's interesting, that's right now. One of my favorite magazines at the moment, it's a motorcycle magazine from Colorado called Meta, and it's very like, it's meant to just be like, it's a much bigger magazine. It's it's a different crop and whatever, and it's a little more higher production. Like, it's $20 an issue or whatever, which is kind of a lot, but it's meant to be something that you hold on to. It's designed to have like really interesting stuff that you wouldn't find anywhere else, and it's meant to kind of just almost encapsulate what's going on in that time. Like, that's, I think a lot of my love of like print media and stills and stuff just is kind of more of a generational thing, because I am a bit older than I think most BMXers and stuff nowadays, or what's considered the core audience. But so maybe that's just my thoughts on it. But I love I've always loved print media, or like doing print stuff, just because it seems to just have more of a lasting thing to it, like, or just kind of serve more of a time capsule. Like, I still love DVDs and stuff, because it seems that it kind of serves as almost this point in time for for the company that put it out or whatever. Or it even stills, like with a lot of things, I can't remember like certain video clips necessarily, or just like stuff on Instagram, but I can remember, magazine covers from like, BMX and moto magazines from like when I was 10.
Yeah.
And I just like can probably tell you like everything about that issue.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's like, when I was in high school, we had to read for however many minutes a day or whatever. And I would always have a different magazine, like a BMX magazine. And I would get in shit from the teachers all the time, because like, that's not reading. I'm like, there's so many different fucking pages in here that have like, literature, articles about these people. It's reading. Like, and to me, it felt so much different than like a book. I've never been interested in books. I'm fucking ADHD. I can't sit there and just read words. I need pictures. I need something to look at, So I think that like, it definitely sucks that a lot of the BMX magazines are gone. I think that all the like main publications are gone. I'm not sure if this company is still doing anything, but the Ride PA, which is like a Ride BMX Philadelphia thing, it's not even like associated with Ride at all. It's just that's their title for their magazine. Those guys were like the last people to do it, and they started it when everybody else was gone. So I'm not sure if they're still around. I really need to check, because I want to get a subscription to them and just support them, because like, anything BMX where you're trying your hardest to do something, I fucking support. Like,
oh yeah,
it's it's all for the same reason, and I think people put too much drama or put too much stuff into it when it doesn't need to be there, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah, like I think also too, like, as much as there may not be necessarily an audience, or we may not kind of think there's a large audience for print media anymore, I think it kind of made people just kind of realize that if you're going to do it, then it's because you want to do it. Like, I find, like, especially in the BMX world, there's a lot of magazines and stuff like Challenger BMX, Endless, the short-lived Albion magazine from the UK. That's one of my favorite magazines ever. They kind of, I think people just started realizing that it's like, hey, I'm just going to do this as a passion project, or like I just want to do something as like a way to contribute to the, to the sport or whatever. So it's not so much of a, hey, I'm going to make money at this, or I want to get like notoriety. It's just, if I can just do something that, that just maybe gets around, or just maybe helps me put my stamp on what I do, on something I love. And if it eventually goes somewhere, or if I can, even at a bare minimum, just do enough, exposure, just get enough that it just covers the cost, I'm all for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good point.
Plus, I mean, if this stuff exists, people are going to buy it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I think people don't really realize that, or they think, because it's not something that's like hugely commercially successful or whatever, they think it's just a write-off or people aren't buying it. But I mean, people will.
People will. That's for sure. People will always support you when you do that kind of stuff, right? So here's a couple things that I wanted to chat about just in photography. What are a few key things people miss or overlook when they first start taking action shots? At least in your opinion.
The one thing that I see a lot, maybe someone starting out, is I'll kind of give like two different answers here. One related to sports and one not. Is I see people don't really think about the trick as much. Like, as someone who rides, you obviously know that there's a way to properly film a trick or whatnot, or like, shoot something. There's obviously like a good side, or, or whatnot. Like I've just seen a lot of, photos and stuff or video where, like, say someone's doing like a bar spin, or like a 180 bar spin or whatever, like a disaster, but the person films it from the opposite way they're spinning, or like they're throwing it, so you literally just see their butt for the entire shot. And I think, it is just kind of a rookie mistake, but I think it is really important to just take the, that 30 seconds and just figure out, okay, like what side is it going to work on? Like how's it going to look? Like it kind of just works. It just kind of coincides with, how to compose a shot, but it's just kind of important. It's just kind of a thing I see happens a lot, is you don't really think about, you just kind of like line it up and just think that it'll look good or whatever. You don't really think about it. And then it's just, you're seeing someone's butt for a shot or whatever.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Like usually in my experience, when I'm hanging out with my friends who skate and stuff, just because I don't know like, skateboard tricks that much, usually like, and they know that, so usually they'll say, oh, I'm going to do this. So I'm going to be like looking this way on it. So you probably should look like, so set up like maybe over there, or, or like set up like this way or whatever. So
that's true.
Yeah. So then, I think another thing that kind of gets people caught up in just in photography in general is they think you need a good camera, or you need a camera, which it's 2019. Like your phone is more than capable as a good camera. I mean, you obviously won't have the control over the settings and whatnot, but it'll at least teach you how to find good lighting and, understand good composition and stuff. Like anything past, I'd say like an iPhone 5S is more than capable nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times people are just posting this stuff on Instagram anyways.
Yeah.
Like my dad, he's a tattoo artist, and he went out and bought like this ridiculous camera with all this equipment. He spent a ton of money on this stuff. And the guy like really doesn't even know how to use any of it. And 90% of the time just ends up taking photos on his phone, because it's just way faster. It's way quicker, especially for something like that where he's, running a business. He needs to be able to do other shit than just that.
Yeah.
So, no, I definitely think that's a good point. People can learn with that stuff. I personally learned with cameras because that's what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to be able to use a camera and be able to, one day print it off or make a full video if I'm doing that. Because myself, I've always cared so much about audio, and they do have a lot of mics that you can plug right into your phone now. But to me, the audio is like, if the audio is terrible, I'm not going to fucking watch it. Like, even with BMX stuff, like people have always said like, oh, you don't even need to like spend that much money on a microphone. That's stupid. You're not even going to do anything with it. You're just putting music over it. And like, that's not how it works. You still need to be able to hear the sound of the pegs, or hear the sound of the cassette, or, hear those little things. Those are super important, at least to me. Like, that's why I would spend, $300-$400 on a microphone for a camera just for BMX video.
Oh yeah. Like even on Amazon, you can buy like a half decent Rode mic for like under $200. So, I mean, you know, it may be kind of more of an afterthought to like get a microphone or something, or maybe like down the road if you're doing a lot more video, but it's definitely something really important. You know, like as much as like, it is beneficial to have a camera and stuff, just because you will have all that control and stuff, and you will have a much bigger file size that you can, you know, learn to edit with and whatnot. It's not something you need right away by any amounts. Like it's just, you know, like it's really just if have never like taken a picture before, or like if there's something you kind of want to get into more casually, like just use your phone.
It makes more sense when you're
Yeah.
like first starting out, right?
Mhm.
Because there's no reason to go and drop, you know, $300-400 on a
At
camera
least.
setup.
Yeah.
That like I'm just saying Kijiji prices for the cheapest thing you can get. Because when I started out, I got friend deals on my first camera, and I ended up paying $100 total, and it was a Canon. What was it? I think it was an XT. It was old.
Yeah.
Like the fucking screen on it was like this by this, and the lens I got was a 55 to 250, like base lens, I guess.
Yeah. Like something around there.
And that thing was like, I fucking hated that camera when I first started out. But by the end of its life, when I started doing other stuff, that camera had such a good, like, I figured it out, you know? And like a lot of the shots that I was taking, sorry, were really good. Like, you know, I had a shot of like dude doing a wall ride where I used a flash off to the side and that hit perfectly, and there was like, you know, I always felt like it was a fluke because I wasn't that great at taking photos, but it was so good that like I presented it in my class for high school and as like my final thing, and it went to an art gallery for a month, like a bunch of
No
other
way.
stuff. Like it was so weird. Like I did not expect that,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was really cool to see that that's how it went. So
Oh, good on you for that. Like
Yeah.
even shooting with strobe is something it's not easy to say the least, because it kind of because shooting strobe, like when you start using, you know, flash and strobes and stuff, it does kind of change a lot of how you have to think about, you know, your camera settings and stuff, because you're controlling more, because you're using your aperture and shutter to more or less control how the light works at that point, instead of getting the exposure or kind of figuring out in camera.
yeah,
So it's pretty, you know, it's not easy to do, especially if you're kind of new to it, especially in the action sports world, just because stuff doesn't move fast. You know, everything moves too fast for, you know, for that stuff to really work. It's like, even for myself, shooting like with lights, like shooting action sports stuff with lights, it took a while till I really kind of even got close to figuring it out.
it's really difficult. I think a lot of people, when they get a flash and they start doing it, you know, I was really bad for this, but you know, you don't focus on the light of the entire photo. You focus on the light of just that person. And like, you know, whenever you see a photo from like an indoor park where the entire background is black, but that is like lit up and it looks like they're riding in the dark, they're riding with the lights.
Yeah.
It's just that light is so fucking bright that it literally makes everything else look black.
Yeah, which I mean, if I can do stuff like that, I'm all for it, just because usually in those situations the lighting of like the building itself isn't great. But
It's terrible.
Yeah, like I've shot more than my share of times at, you know, inflow and joyride and stuff, and it's far from an ideal lighting setup just on its own. So you definitely need to bring that stuff, but bring additional lights and stuff. But at the same time, it is really important to kind of remember that there is lighting there. So it's kind of more so like your lighting is really just more to figure out like how can you get a little more out of it, or how am I not, you know, shooting at, you know, 5,000 ISO anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is always a good thing to have.
Exactly. So what kind of editing software do you use? Do you use Lightroom? Do you use Photoshop? Do you use editing software? Myself, when I first started, I tried my hardest to never have to use it. But then I really got into using Lightroom just to do certain things where you would take a photo and make it entirely gray, but then maybe the bike was blue, like the frame. So then you would have just the frame be blue. And that was the only thing that was colored. And I really liked doing stuff like that.
Yeah. I pretty much the main thing I use is Lightroom and Photoshop. I'm absolutely garbage at Photoshop, if I must say so. If you know, or I'm far from probably any skill. I'm far from any level that I'd be content with. But but Lightroom's just really good because it catalogs everything really well, but also you can do a lot really quickly. So it's just kind of so for a lot of stuff, especially if it's just like things I'm shooting just for Instagram. So like if I'm just like shooting some stuff for like my friends who are like skateboarding or riding and stuff, and like I can have a bunch of stuff to edit. I can just like bring it all in, edit it really quickly, just do whatever I need to do, just get it for a good crop for Instagram and just export it and just toss it out within like a few hours, like or even like an hour.
Yeah, Lightroom is really good for that. It's really easy to use. They have a phone one now too.
Yeah,
like
the phone one's pretty cool. You unfortunately have to pay for it to like kind of cloud it and stuff, and it is a little clunky for what it is, but I just don't like it because I use my computer so much for editing anyway, so it's not like I really need to do a lot on my phone.
I can't get into the phone shit, man. I can't. Yeah. Like I've always used computers. I have fucking 3 iMacs in here, dude. Like, you know what I mean? It's true, it is, but
yeah. So those are kind of the main ones. Then there's another editing software called Capture One, which is kind of more of like the professional standard that I use a lot. Unfortunately, I have to pay for it, which as a broke student, I'm not really about. So I have yet to use it. I have yet to use it like for a lot of personal stuff or whatever. But it is really good. Like it is really good because it is a little more professional. But it's basically kind of like the hybrid between Lightroom and Photoshop, and it's the one thing that's really nice is you can shoot like tethered, so you can shoot something and have it show up on like the monitor and stuff and do like some basic editing right then and there.
Yeah.
So you kind of get the best of both worlds from doing like both Lightroom and Photoshop. And it's a little easier to use, or it's a little more, or how sometimes the workflow is on Capture One. It's a little more intuitive at times, but mostly use Lightroom. Yeah, it's just the Capture One is just more of like the professional standard for a lot of like the higher end commercial photography stuff.
Right.
So
now, when it comes to using Lightroom and Adobe apps, are you actually paying for the cloud service, or have you torrented them? Because I started out and I torrented all that shit, and now I actually pay $80 a month, and I have every single Adobe app that I need and cloud storage and everything. But it's still like, fuck, man, $80 a month.
Oh yeah,
you can't buy it either. Like you can only pay annually or pay monthly. There's no way that you can just buy it.
Yeah, I've bought everything, but it's only just because through my schooling, I get the cloud for free. So
yeah,
I've had it for as long as I've been at Sheridan. Plus, I think I get it for like another year or so after.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I've been able to, avoid paying for it all this time, which, unfortunately the time's gonna run out sooner or later, but I mean, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, like for what it is, it's all really cool. Like I know there is like different, kind of plans for it where if you're only doing like photo stuff, there's like one that's just
just Photoshop and Lightroom. I know that. And it's pretty cheap. Like you can just do the one app on its own. Like if you just use Lightroom exclusively, you can just have Lightroom. Because like, myself, I needed, because I'm doing animation, I'm doing video editing, I'm doing photo stuff, I'm doing stuff within Animator and everything else. Like to me, it made more sense just to get everything.
Yeah,
same. But for somebody like yourself that's mainly just using Lightroom and not Photoshop, just torrent an old version of Photoshop and use the new version of Lightroom.
I like having everything. I can't talk. I like having all the apps and stuff because through Illustrator and whatnot, or I like having Premiere as well because I do a fair bit of editing, and then I'm trying to kind of reteach myself how to use Illustrator. So having that on my computer and being able to mess around with that has been really nice. But yeah, just for the sake of, if I ever had to pay for it, I'd probably try to just condense it down a bit just to save some cash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is pretty pricey when you get into everything. And like, thing I didn't like is that there's no, like, they have a month-to-month basis one where you can just end at any point, or they have an annual one, but you pay like monthly. I did the annual one because it's like, $20 cheaper.
Yeah.
But now, if I ever decide that I want to start using completely different programs, I have to pay for it for the rest of the year. Like, I am absolutely under a contract. I have to
Oh
do
yeah.
it, or else I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
pay for everything. So
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I know. As long as you have I know a lot of people who still just try to keep their colleges, emails valid and stuff. So I know just to be able to get a discount on it. So I know, like, it is possible to get to kind of cheat the system a bit here. I wouldn't condone that necessarily, but
yeah,
yeah, if you can make it work, then do it.
I have
You
a
know.
buddy that like he's a graphic designer, and he went to school for about a year, and then this year he dropped out.
Mhm.
But his Photoshop didn't run out, and like
Yeah.
all of his cloud stuff didn't, and now he's convinced that he's gonna have it for the next 4 years because you originally sign up to
Yeah.
have it for that long.
Hmm.
So I'm like, I wonder if that's actually gonna work, and if it does, fucking good on you. But
Oh yeah, like I know it wouldn't work for me just because every summer or so, just because like that's when I download everything for the first time and activated it. It eventually expires, so I have to like jump through some hoops to get it back and stuff. Which
yeah,
so I can imagine probably like maybe August or something, I'll finally lose it for good. But oh well.
yeah.
Yeah,
What do you do, right?
yeah. Hopefully, I'm making enough money at that point that I can afford to,
Yeah,
I can
pay
afford
for
to
it.
spend it. Just
Yeah.
pay for it and spend the money.
Alrighty. So what was the first camera setup that you were using?
Like probably like the first thing that I ever really thought like, okay, I'm gonna like try and take photos and stuff was like my iPhone 5S with just like an Olo clip on it. I was just like, I was just kind of like, I don't have the money, so I know like this will be able to get me by until I'm in a position to afford it.
Yeah.
Then my first actual camera, which I still use quite a bit to this day, was a Canon T5i, which is pretty much the ubiquitous beginner camera almost. I jokingly say it's the Honda Civic of cameras.
It so is.
Like it's it's really good for what it is. I cannot fault it. It's just my skill level and what I need in a camera has just surpassed it, like what it can do very far. So the second I like was able to afford a better camera, I was all over it. But yeah, I still use it a fair bit just because I have this one lens that it's a 10-18 wide angle, but doesn't work with the higher end cameras. So it's just I still like using my T5i a fair bit just because. Also at this point, I can throw it around and just not care about it at all. Like I've had like it's been dropped once or twice. It's had people hit it and it's still going. So.
Is that 10 to 18 the wide angle lens, the EFS?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one of those too.
Yeah.
I don't know if mine was a 10 to 22 or if it was 10 to 18. I think it was 10 to 22.
I know Canon does the 10 to 18, but I know I want to say Sigma or Tamron, it's a 10 to 22 and it's a slightly better aperture.
Right.
Yeah.
When I was doing photos, I was using my uncle's 10 to 18 Canon lens for quite a while, and then I bought a 18 to 85 Sigma lens. That was so sick, man. I'm so pissed at myself for getting rid of that shit because it was like that was such a good little setup. I had a T1i with that lens, and it wasn't great, but it was really good for taking photos. And then I had a video camera on the side as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. But then when I got into video, I just traded that camera for my DVX that I have over there. And, the DVX is a really nice camera. I like it, but that camera is fucked. Like, it's so old. It runs on tape, and it just didn't, luckily it finished my first video, but after I finished Fuck Asses, I knew that I needed a new camera, and that's when I got the HVX, which is like the big brother of that camera. Yeah. And that HVX has been through hell and back, man. For Space Goats, we did 100,000 files complete. Jesus, for the video, over 100,000 files. So that includes, animation files and everything too, which was a lot. But that camera did every single clip in the video. There's not a single clip in that video that doesn't involve that camera, which is pretty fucking crazy. That means for anybody that has seen the video, all of the double angles were filmed with that camera. We just had to film it twice, or it was somebody, throwing the trick and maybe they looped out at the end. I would cut it right before they loop out and then put the actual land after that. And that worked really well. But yeah, I guess that's a little bit about my setup.
Mhm.
What setup are you using now?
I'm still using a T5 a lot, or the T5i. Then I have a 5D Mark III.
Nice. Those
Yeah,
things are fucking nice, man.
yeah.
Full frame, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like I haven't like I thankfully haven't been too worried about like needing good cameras and stuff, just because like being in school we have really good hookups on everything. So I literally just have like a 5D Mark III that I just got used. I found a really good deal on one. Then that was like it was a little higher of a shutter count, so I'll probably have to upgrade soon enough. But I mean, it'll or turn it into a backup camera. But it's great for what it is. And I had a handful of decent lenses at that point, so I was like, I'll get by. Yeah.
What's your favorite lens to use right now?
The one like, gosh, if I had probably had to say, probably I don't have one, but the 24 to 70 2.8. That's usually a go to if I ever have an opportunity to use it, just because you kind of get the best. Like it is kind of a weird length to have.
Is that the L series
Yeah.
lens? Nice.
It's like just because it is a lower aperture, it's really good in low light. But I find for a lot of things, if you're shooting some stuff or like doing some events or whatever, you get the wide and you get a nice telephoto, so you do kind of get the best of both worlds. Like it's not super wide, it's not super it's not
It's
super
such
long,
a good
but
lens to just have on your
Yeah.
camera ready to go. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
It's just a good like do anything lens.
Yeah.
Then I just for some reason I always just keep going back to the 50 mil 1.8. There's just something about it that I just really enjoy.
The 50
Yeah.
mil is so good. It's like a really nice prime
Mhm.
lens,
Yeah.
I think that anybody that wants to learn photography and you want to have an
Mhm.
actual camera setup, the best camera setup to get is just a cheap camera body like Canon,
Yeah.
Rebel series with a 50 mil
Mm.
lens, because it will teach you how to take photos without worrying about the zoom or anything.
Mhm.
You are the zoom. However
Mhm.
far you walk back, that's how far the camera's going to be.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like just because it is like you're stuck at one length, glass is typically a lot better in prime lenses and stuff. And you can do it has a better aperture, so it's a lot better in most situations. But it also really forces you to think about composition stuff a lot more, because you can't just zoom in and out, is which is another really big rookie mistake people do in the beginning. Or I still do that to this day. Like sometimes I'm like just I'm just sitting somewhere and I'm like, oh, I can zoom in, but then eventually it's like, okay, no, I don't need to do that. I need to physically move. But being stuck in one focal length is a really good way to get out of that, especially early on.
No, that's a really good point. So, to anybody listening that, this is all a different language to them. Most people that like don't shoot photos or video will not understand this at all. But
Yeah.
let's explain a little bit here. So, earlier we mentioned the 5D Mark III, which is a full frame camera. And then we also were talking about what was it? I had it a second ago. Okay, I'll come back to it, but explain what the difference between a full frame camera is and like a normal camera, and the different frame sizes they have.
Okay. So more or less, when saying a full frame versus a crop sensor is basically referring to the sensor of the camera itself. So the sensor is what you basically use to take a picture of. It will, the way a camera works is essentially light, going into a piece of paper or whatever, or like film, which like photography is actually like a Latin word for like light painting or something. Don't quote me on that. That's something I just read somewhere, but yeah, it's along those lines. But so it's basically the sensor. So it's what the camera uses to take the photo with, and what helps make sense of it. Because digital doesn't use film anymore, it's basically just it basically just takes what you're shooting and makes sense of it in binary code. So just zeros and ones, and then it shows up on the screen. So there's what's called the full frame, which is quite literally what it is, full frame, but then crop sensor, which is just smaller. So like I think there is like kind of a universal size for what a full frame is, but when you start getting into crop sensors and stuff, Canon and Nikon have slightly different sizes. So I think the Nikon ones are a little bit bigger, but again, don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then with crop sensors just being a little smaller, they are cheaper to produce. So that's why you kind of see more beginner cameras and stuff will just have them, and then once you get past a certain point, you'll see full frames. The benefit for the full frame is it allows more light into the camera, so you'll just be able to get more light in. So that just helps out in some situations, especially low light and stuff. And then it also gives a bigger file size, which you might think may not be a great thing, but it does really help in the editing process because you just have more information to edit with, especially when you're in Photoshop and editing out things and doing what's called destructive editing. It helps out a lot with just maintaining a lot of the quality.
Oh, of course. Like any of the animation files that I make, or any of the Photoshop files that I make for the show that I'm trying to create, all of it is literally the top resolution we can get because that's like the best one to use, because you can zoom in right on it and it'll not be pixelated. You can get rid of stuff and it'll be great. The next question that I had was, with Canon, they have two different series of lenses. They have their EF lenses and their EFS lenses. So let's explain a little bit about the EF versus EFS. So as I would say, EFS is the cheaper lenses that fit on only the Rebel series cameras, whereas the EF lenses fit on all cameras, but they're higher, they're higher quality.
Yeah, I think just the term kind of just comes from the mounting system they use. Like, there's a slightly different mount for some reason. Canon did that, but also with the higher end lenses too. Like when you get into the EF lenses and the what they call the L series, is the glass is a lot better. So it's just a higher quality, the glass is just a lot higher quality, and usually, more often than not, usually the aperture settings go a lot lower. So basically that just means you can get that nicer depth of field and shallower depth of field and whatnot that everyone loves, or it just is a lot more helpful in lower light situations. But the main thing is just glass is a lot better.
Exactly. That's that's basically our little 2 minutes about photography. One last thing. So you mentioned the shutter count on your camera. Why does shutter count matter? And explain what it basically will tell you.
Yeah. So the shutter count is basically what moves up and down, or what takes the photo. So again, the way cameras work is light goes in, there's a shutter that opens up and closes in the time, so the light comes in and then that's what takes the picture. But it is a mechanical piece of tech. It is mechanical inside the camera. It goes you can see this on the video, but it'll go up, down, and shut.
Yeah.
So it is mechanical. And all things that move, it eventually wears out over time. But also with the shutter count, it plays into the sensor because it is a piece of technology. It eventually wears out and stuff, especially when light's constantly going into it. I think most camera we're definitely in a really good place for shutter count nowadays, where what would be considered a high number isn't even that bad. Most Canon cameras, they say kind of the minimum shutter count before things to start really go bad is around 1 million. But I think they just kind of they really undersell the number just to say oh, you can do 1 million and it'll start to get bad, but it'll probably get closer to 2 million.
Yeah. I think they kind of have to do that, it's the same thing with quite a few things. They're trying to just protect themselves, because if something does start to go bad at around 1 million, people can't be fucking pissed about it. They don't have to offer
just them,
warranty.
But also it's, I think to some degree, the technology moves so fast. Are you going to shoot anywhere near that much?
I don't think so.
On a camera, unless you have unless you only have that camera for, decades.
Yeah.
But even then it's still a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand that when you buy a camera, it's actually an investment, because that camera, if you get a brand new camera, it will last you fucking forever. My HVX that camera is at least 13 years old, and it's been used for at least 13 years, and I'm one of the last owners for it. I'll never sell that camera. So but for the last year, it's just been sitting on my shelf, but still works great to this
yeah.
day. Every time I fucking put a battery in it, clicks on right away and records easily. There's there's a big difference between video and photo cameras, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Like, the hours do add up after a while.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna switch it up a little bit. So you ride moto as well. So how long have you been riding motorbikes?
Oh gosh, I don't even know anymore. I started. If I had to even guess, I think this past year was my 16th year doing it. So it's been about twice as long as I've ridden BMX at this point.
Wow.
I've kind of been doing it for so long, like racing moto for so long, that I'm now racing against people, like kids who have only been alive for as long as I've ridden.
Wow.
Yeah, which so I'd just be sitting on the line, making small talk to some kid, to a kid, and he's like, "Oh, I this is my first race on a big bike or whatever." I'm just I just turned 14 or whatever, and I'm like, I've been riding longer than you've been alive, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. But motocross is always kind of my first real love and passion. It was kind of I kind of got into the sport a bit later. I was around 9 or 10 when I discovered it. Of all things, I saw X Games on TV or something, and then just for a year after, I just begged my parents to buy me a bike, and they finally caved. Which moral of the story: sometimes sitting around watching TV is a lot more beneficial than you might think.
Yeah.
And
so true.
Yes. I'd say, go outside and do something every now and then, but sometimes sitting around watching TV helps.
Yeah.
But I've just consistently done it ever since. Gosh, in all these years I've done it, I used to race a lot more competitively when I was younger, just because I, had more ambition and just the more time and stuff. But then being an adult kind of took over and kind of slowly less and less. But I do it purely just for the fun now. If I can just go out, hang out with my friends, ride around and, race and stuff and have a good day and not destroy myself for the bike too much, then I'd say it's a good day.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So what kind of bike are you riding right now?
I have a KTM 250 SX. Got to keep the two-stroke alive.
Nice.
Yeah. I've always I've only ever really owned two strokes, just because I back when I was first riding and stuff, they were just a lot more common, and four strokes were kind of expensive and unreliable and stuff. The technology just wasn't there yet. So, and I still kind of thought that, but then just over time, as much as that has kind of changed, and I think I'll finally switch to a four stroke when it comes time for a next bike. I've always just loved two strokes. They sound cooler.
Yeah.
They sound cooler. It's a lot less expensive to work on, or at least the overhead to run them is a lot better. And they're a little more reliable, which owning a KTM kind of makes me question that at times, but being the one Euro brand, I love it, but it's a little high strung at times, which can be annoying, but I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. I never actually asked you what kind of bike you're riding now. I know what it is, but other people don't. So what kind of BMX bike are you riding?
I have a full total Webby show set up, the Mark Webb signature line in the paint splatter Ruckers job, Ruckers paint thing, the graffiti paint splat stuff. Before that, the bike that you were really jealous about was I had a total Voltron, which was the version 1 of it. But I had the limited edition metallic pink.
Yeah, that frame is really nice.
Yeah, I refuse to part with it. It's, I kept the thing looking so immaculate. I babied the thing way too much for a BMX bike. But I always loved Mark Webb as a rider. I always thought he was just so cool.
He's such an unreal rider.
Yeah,
man.
even at now that he's a bit older and doesn't really compete or do a lot anymore. Doesn't really film all that much, but he's just got so many. He has that really amazing can't think of the word, but he has that really amazing kind of polarity to his riding where he can do the really big wild stuff, but he's also just a machine at the technical stuff too.
That guy is so next level when it comes to park riding. You can only compare shit to himself. The stuff that he does is ridiculous.
I remember all three of his Webby show parts are, there's a handful of clips in each of them that are pretty wild. Some of the things that always stick out to me for him it was an old Dew Tour competition. He did whip over ice, switch whip over on a spine.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, wait, what? I think his kind of signature move, signature trick was the decade to 360.
Yeah, he's so unreal with that.
I think one of my favorite things I ever saw him do, or one of them, was on Instagram, just like casually like practice, like getting warmed up for a demo. He did downside. I'm trying to think.
Downside Smith would be peg downside, with wheel still on the ramp.
Like vertically. He did downside Smith, pedal stall, 180 to a lucky, then toothpick bar in. And
he's so crazy when it comes to tech shit.
There's no doubt he probably did that like maybe like second or third try. I think probably the one thing that was the real mind fuck was in his like the Webby Show 3 over a spine, he did like over toothpick to switch whip.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm not really one to like stop if I'm watching a video even for the first time, I'm not one to like stop, rewind and watch it again, but I did that because I'm like, that did not make sense.
Yeah
like
that clip doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, just trying to explain that, it's like, okay, like hopped over, like slid, the toothpick for a second, and then like perfectly kicks the whip and whatever.
That's so gnarly. And when you're already in a tooth stall, a whip doesn't make sense because you're leaning forward. Like, at least for me, when I do whips, you want the bike to be level-ish.
Yeah, like you kind of want to be neutral,
Yeah, I love when people can do, like, Chase Dehart has the best hop whips, and like same with Fathead, where I was gonna say they do the hop whip and the bike is like, so I'm gonna use my fucking bottle opener here. Normal whips flat. Yeah. Chase Dehart and fucking Fathead whips. Yeah. Front end is literally the tip of the dick fucking straight down. Back end is like on the fucking ground. This is hilarious, eh?
Oh, that's great. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that in this podcast there's a line, the tip of the dick. And this works. But I'm so happy that's in there. But yeah, like I've always been a huge fan of Mark Webb. So like I always wanted one of his bikes. But then like, oh gosh, I want to say like 2013 or 14, he did like the pink one for himself. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need that. Like if they ever do it. And just... they announced it going into the holiday season 2015. So as soon as they announced it, I was on the phone with people like trying to figure out how to get it, which I did. And like I don't think I'll ever have a bike that's as nice as that one. Like sick. Like even 3 years later, I'd still go out to my garage and just look at it and be like, and just it would bring a smile to my face just knowing that I have it and it's mine.
I feel like you always build up a whole new bike. You don't just do the frame and then parts.
I kind of just got in the habit of doing that. Like I think with like I've actually like for as long as I've ridden, I've actually not had many like entire bikes. I've literally only had 4 bikes. Yeah. So I've had like my first complete my We the People Irish frame, which shout out to Jason Phelan. I love that frame. Then my 2 Mark Webb total bikes, and for me, like I've never been really hard on parts. Like it's more like usually if things go, it's more just things just finally just wear out and just go. So to me, it's not uncommon to like not have to spend a lot of money on parts or like constantly buy parts. So usually an entire bike will last me like 2 to 4 years depending like how things are. So to me, it's kind of it eventually just made more sense to be like, you know what, I'll just go spend all the money in one go and just I know I'll have a fresh bike and just not have to worry about it.
Get over it, right? Yeah, that way it's just done.
Yeah, because especially with my like both my total bikes, I wanted them to have a certain look. Like for the pink one, I wanted the chrome front end and stuff, and then so like I knew I had to buy like handlebars and forks, and then for my current bike, I knew I had to buy like everything to match up. Yeah. So it just made more sense, but also it was like, what's the difference between spending another $300 now when I'm just building a whole new bike versus, I could just buy the frame, but then probably in like another 2 months, I'm going to have to buy a new set of forks anyway. True. So it's a little more expensive, but I mean,
I bet it feels crazy because I've never actually had an entire brand new bike. And that's my goal one day is to be able to buy everything brand new and put it together and ride it. Because I bet that it's fucking unreal.
It is, it is really fresh. It definitely does take a minute, especially when if it's all like geo you're not used to. Thankfully with like my current total setup, it's like essentially part for part my last bike. I think just the offset on the forks was a bit different, but
Yeah.
it wasn't anything that it wasn't anything that I couldn't figure out right away. Then yeah.
No, that's fair.
Yeah. The one thing, like when I did the pink bike, like I'm just one of those people, like I get something and then it's like literally 2 weeks later I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind getting something else, which like I didn't do. But once I started thinking about it, it's time to get a new bike, I want to get a new bike and stuff, I didn't really want to get another total.
Yeah.
Because no hate, like absolutely no hate on the brand. I fucking love both my total frames.
You just rode 2 of them now.
Yeah, so. I'm on my second one, but I kind of wanted to just try a different brand because when I first really discovered what Total was and stuff, it was kind of an obscure brand. Like they didn't really have a distro in America and stuff in North America. So it was kind of an obscure brand, which I really liked. I mean, I think almost all my frames to some degree have had some kind of obscurity to them, or
that's true. Because the We the People Irish one, I could never find that. I really liked that frame. Yeah, that was one of the things that I think we met at Norton, and I saw that you had that frame, and that was one of the things where I was like, "Damn, that's fucking sick."
Yeah, like with the Irish, I really liked I've always really digged We the People as a brand, especially back in those days. I found the team was just a little better, or like there was a little more diversity to the team, and I always really loved Jason Phelan. He was kind of he had this really jack of all trades kind of style riding.
Yeah,
he was just able to kind of just ride anything and have it look cool. So, and it was kind of, at the time, it was kind of the one frame that I really liked geometry wise. So I knew that if I was going to get a We the People frame, it'd be that one. And thankfully, like I just kind of lucked out getting one.
Fair.
Just the shop I always went to, they were, I said, oh, I wanted this frame, and then, started, looking around and stuff. Then when I got the Total frames, they were still it was kind of the same thing, or it's kind of different, or, Total is a very established brand at this point, but usually if people were buying a Total frame, it was more the Killaby or the Hangover, which are really good frames. It's just, I've always liked the Voltron or the Webby Show frames, because I mean, Mark Webb.
I feel like they're always like, the Hangover frame is so low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
it's like a scooter, man. But like the Voltron is kind of close to being like a street style frame.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Or a more traditional BMX frame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the one thing I always liked about the Voltron from a geo standpoint was the standover height, which is like it's basically like how the seat tube is in relation, how high the seat tube is in relation to like where the bike sits and where the seat goes. It was considerably a lot higher than the other frames in the Total line. Like I think it was like an 8.5 or 8.6, which is kind of on the low side if you like in the grand scheme of things, but that's pretty tall for a Total frame. But it felt like a real bike to ride, like it didn't feel like it was tiny or whatever. Like the seat wasn't like halfway up your ankles or whatever.
Yeah. So
it still felt like a real bike to ride that you could, maneuver around and hold on to. So that was also the one thing I really liked about it. Then I kind of wanted to get a different frame when I was thinking about retiring the pink bike, but I saw Total they were doing the paint splatter thing they did for the frame, and then eventually they released the matching bar and fork, and I was like, fuck, I have to call Adam.
Yeah, you gotta get it.
Yeah, I was like, I really like the frame, but I mean, since they did it all, it looks so much cooler, but you can't just get the frame, you have to get the full kit.
You have to.
Oh yeah, like it's a mandatory thing, which like even then, for both my Total frames, I don't think I ever met another person who had a Voltron frame, let alone the pink one or the full kit.
I think you're the only one I know that's had them, because the only other people that I know that ride or have rode Total frames was like, I think Jaden Chipman rode one for a while.
Yeah, he had on them Hangover for like a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
a couple other people, like maybe the Joyride kits. Yeah,
it was mostly just Joyride rats, but usually it was just the Killaby or the Hangover, depending how tall you were. So like I kind of liked the Voltrons for that. Just kind of it was a little more what I wanted, but also it was kind of still gave me some obscure points, Oh,
of course.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got a couple more on here. How you doing for time? How you feeling?
Oh, dude, I got all night, man. So,
cool. All right. Well, we'll keep going here because I got a couple more, and then I'm gonna play a song, and then we'll go through these photos that you've sent in. So,
sure.
I found this photo on your Instagram a while back, and it's the coffee team photo from Owen Sound
Yes.
area. So it's from this little town called Chatsworth,
Yeah.
and it's so close to Owen Sound. I grew up in that area, and that store used to be a Coffee Time, which is like a big chain that used to be around. These people bought this store and just took the coffee tea or coffee time part down. They just took the time part down and literally just made it team. And for some reason, that was like the funniest photo to me. So how did you come across that?
Well, the way I discovered it was I used to, when racing moto, there's a track called Moto Park about 10 minutes away from there that I go to at least once a year for racing. And I used to they do a 5-day camp there. That's kind of mostly headed by Zeb Dennis, which shout out to Zeb. He's one of the coolest dudes ever.
Also, he'll be on the show next year. Check out Zeb Dennis. I'm trying to see if I have a date here. Sorry.
It's all good. Yeah,
here. I do not have a date yet. However, I know that he is going to be coming in January. So make sure you guys check that one out.
Yeah, I literally just said his name just so we could name drop that.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
Not a problem. But so usually, like, especially when I was racing and stuff, usually there is like a hotel and stuff on site at Moto Park, but being a motocross track, it's a little gross at times. So usually what my parents would do if we were there would be there's like a little motel about 5 minutes away that we just usually crash at, which is a little better, a little cleaner and stuff. But to get there, we have to pass by this place called Coffee Team, which usually it's Chatsworth, Ontario, which if you've ever been there or gone there, it's kind of nothing. It's
literally 15 seconds to drive from the entrance of the town to the exit of the town. It's so tiny. There's nothing there.
Yeah. On a side note, there's also another town in just past Stratford called Walton, Ontario. It's considered the motocross capital of Canada, but you can literally see the signs that say welcome to and now leaving within eyesight of each other.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. The town is literally the track, a church, and some farm rental, equipment rental place. That's it.
That's so funny.
Yeah. But anyways, this place, Coffee Team, is it became usually the go-to spot just because it's middle of nowhere, Ontario, and it's not like I think the closest Tim Hortons is still probably 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
Or in Owen Sound, which is the complete other direction than we were going. So usually that became the spot, which the spot for coffee and whatnot. Which, for what it's worth, it is a really good coffee place. The coffee the coffee is pretty tight there, and the donuts and stuff are actually pretty decent for what it is. For this little middle of nowhere place, and usually when we're going there, it was 6:37 in the morning. There's always these two old dudes out front, clearly farmers who are just staring down any unfamiliar person.
Yeah.
But
that's their favorite thing to do, man.
Oh yeah.
I grew up in those small towns, and it's literally those dudes have nothing better to do than just to look at you.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is this guy?
Oh yeah. It's the same. It's literally I've gone there at least once a year for the past 12 years or so. So it's always the same dudes, and you'd think at some point they'd be like, oh hey, what's this, you seem to always come by here this time of year or whatever, but they just stare you down. But I just love the place because it's the decor in there is so amazing. There's this one poster of Kramer from Seinfeld,
nice.
The one family portrait that he did or whatever. You know which one I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
But I've always just loved how it was called Coffee Team.
It's just so funny. It's literally such a fucking close thing.
Yeah, I don't. It's so close. I don't even it's the exact same font and everything. I'll give you the picture so you can repost it or whatever, just so you can see what we're talking about. But it's the same red banner, yellow words, same font and everything. So unless you really looked at it, you would not know it's Coffee Team.
I just thought the caption was so funny. Do you remember what the caption was?
I will have to look that up.
Look it up right now. Just hop on your phone and check it out, because I know the caption was so funny. I don't want to say it because this is your photo.
I'll keep talking while scrolling through it because it'll take me a minute. But I think for the longest time, I didn't even realize that it was spelt that it was different. But then I finally looked it up and said it was oh my gosh, it's Coffee Team. It seems like one of those things that you'd find at like a dollar store or whatever, where it's like it's like an action figure that like vaguely looks like Spider-Man or whatever, but there's like
Spider Guy.
Yeah, like, or like there's just like a random like word, there's just like a D randomly like put in there or whatever, just like there's like,
it's so funny.
There's like a letter that doesn't make sense to like be put in there or whatever, or like there's a letter missing, so it's like Spied Guy.
Coffee Team is literally the dollar store version of Coffee Time,
which like I know it seems like I'm like really dissing the place, but it's actually really good. Like, that's fair. It's actually pretty cool.
Probably the Dollar Tree version, because Dollar Tree is better than Dollar Store in my mind.
Yeah, like I don't want to diss them too much here.
True. Yeah. Did you find it yet?
Just take me a sec. And oh yeah, okay, now I found it. Yeah. Oh, the caption is there's no I in team, but there's 3 in copyright infringement. So I completely forgot about that. I'm so thankful.
Hold your phone up there so people can see it. Let's see.
Yeah.
They might be able to.
I'll send you a screenshot so you can post it on your story or whatever. But
hell yeah.
Yeah. I actually
just send me the link on that. Like, literally just DM it to me.
Okay.
So you can do that, I think. But
yeah, that I'm actually so thankful you brought that up, because I saw in the script you mentioned that, but then you even wanted to see the caption, which I completely forgot about.
So good. That caption was so funny. Okay, so a while back you shot some photos with the Nitro crew. How did that happen?
That's kind of a random story. That I'll try to kind of condense, but I kind of have to go explain it a bit. But
however long you want, man.
I guess that's the whole point of doing a podcast, is kind of ramble for a while. But
take your time, man.
Yeah. So anyways, my dad has always kind of worked in the music industry to some degree, but doing that and kind of transitioned into what he's been doing for the past 14 years now, which he's done a lot of corporate, live event production and stuff. And he's been doing that for about 14 years or so. But one of his main clients has been the Hamilton Ticats. So if you've ever gone to one of their games, and his main job is, he kind of just, first off, he just makes sure like all the sound stuff is working properly. But his main thing that he has to worry about is making sure the national anthem singer like has a good mic and works. So if you ever go to a game and you see a tall white-haired dude running around during the national anthem, cheer him on, because that's my dad.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Gary.
Bro, I'm about to hire that guy around here. My fucking audio sucks. It takes me so long to set everything up.
I can guarantee my dad will just look at it and like press one knob at random and it'll work way better.
Yeah.
Anyways, so kind of like through that, and like, my dad's been around for so long and stuff, and has so many connections, that it's kind of helped me kind of weasel my way into things like that. Like, he knows so many people that if I ever went to wanted to go to a show in like Toronto or whatever, he'd just like start calling people at who worked mixers at clubs and stuff, and see if I could just walk through the back door and whatever, just get in if it was a 19+ show underage or whatever.
Yeah.
So this was 2017. Like the Nitro Circus came to Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton, which like I was really into it, and my dad was like, "Oh, I'll ask around and see if you can comp tickets or whatever." So he eventually decided, like the day of, he said, "Oh, well, we'll just go." But the guy said, "Just bring your your media credential passes. Like I'll just make sure I'll have them, and then we can just like walk in and be on the floor." So like sure enough, I was like, "Okay, I'm bringing my camera and stuff," because then I was obviously gonna like bring my camera and shoot stuff because.
Well, you're a media credential. You're
good.
Exactly.
But also, it's one of those things where if you look the part, even if you're not like, if you look the part, you can kind of just weasel your way into it.
Yeah.
Like I did that so many, like especially I've kind of been able to do that a few times. If you have a camera in like a bag and stuff, and like the pass that looks half legit,
you're pretty much fine.
Yeah, people won't really question it. But so everyone else was in the stands and stuff as it was going on, and like, taking Instagram shots and like for stories and stuff. And I was on the field. So like, I was like at the same level as everything was happening. And I just had the camera with me just shooting it. Cause I didn't think I'd ever really have this opportunity, like at least at that point anyway, or ever again. So it was really cool to do. Like, even I was just walking through like all the alleyways and stuff, and just, I started kind of like casually talking to like all them and whatnot. Like I remember, like I just like spoke to Catfish for a second and was just like, "Oh, hey, like I ride BMX, I'm a huge fan." And he was like immediately so stoked on it, and he was actually more stoked that my dad was with me,
That's hilarious.
Yeah, because he was like, "Oh my gosh, like, you know, it's so cool." He was like, "Yeah."
I didn't realize that Catfish tours with those guys.
Yeah, he's like the MC. Whenever he has the time.
He's the fucking MC for everything, dude.
Yeah.
He's telling everybody about the flat Earth and whatnot.
Or my favorite thing from that event is like as part of the show they have like we grab someone from the audience to do whatever, and one of the things they do a handful of things, but one of the things they do is they'll have someone like, you know, suit up with like a full face and everything, and then they'll have a bike with 2 pegs on the back of it, and they'll basically like ride dude canoe like down the ramp, and like whoever will do a backflip and stuff.
That's so crazy.
But obviously, like being what it is and being kind of dangerous, they legally have to show all the times that it didn't work and someone got injured.
Yeah.
To make like do it, but they got the person. I forget the person's name, but Catfish goes, "Hey, like, what's your name?" I was like, the guy was like, "Oh, we'll just call him Kyle," just because I forget and it's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
But he's like, "Okay, do you ride motocross?" No. Do you ride BMX? No. Do you skateboard? No. Do you scooter? No. Then Catfish goes, do you vape? And he goes, yes. And he goes, we have a vapor. And like, and he immediately kind of just like started like half like roasting this guy just because he vapes.
Yeah.
Which is something I found really entertaining.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I started, I was just like shooting all this, like I was just shooting and stuff just because like, how could you not? Like, especially if I was right there and whatnot. But I posted this stuff and eventually, like through 1 or 2 other things, like I think it eventually made like Nitro Circus just used it like on their page, or I think it was Brandon Schmidt, he like reposted it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so like I got
awesome.
like a huge shout out from like him and stuff, and a few other like people in the sport who ride in it.
Hell yeah,
really cool.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, like that's definitely where it kind of the dream, I guess, or that was definitely kind of a cool opportunity to finally have like
one of those things, you know.
Especially like Travis wasn't there, but I saw like his bike was just kind of like in the back because like they just trailer everything around.
Wow.
So like seeing his bike was amazing.
Crazy, eh?
Yeah, and he's like there was a few people in the show who were like some of my favorite riders and people who I even like looked up to back then. So being able to like have a photo taken of them that like I know I took, and like even if they reposted it or didn't, it was just like, oh my gosh, like I never thought I'd be able to do this.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, man. Like it's really cool to actually be involved in something like that, you know? Like maybe you only went there the one night and took a photo, but you know, that is so fucking cool to be able to have people see those photos and repost them, and you know.
Oh yeah.
Like to me personally, when I got my stuff posted with like, you know, these different BMX magazines and whatnot, that was always the best feeling to me, is that because people actually liked it and cared. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's like it's really nothing for these people. All they need to do is just hit repost and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Or
but
just
it's like
even just like it or comment.
Dude, that fucking moment makes everything worth it. You know what I mean?
So like these people, you know, they're have like hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers and are verified and stuff. So like, you know, if they see like what you post or like repost something you did, it's like, oh my gosh, like why?
Well, you'll gain some followers from it, which is cool. But if like you know,
it's even more so just like this person probably has like thousands of messages and like other photos and stuff that he could be like responding to, but no, it's mine.
Yeah, exactly. Very good point. All right, so a couple questions that have nothing to do with BMX or motocross.
Okay.
How did you get into ska music? You're a fellow ska fan.
Yeah.
I am the ska king. I have a mustard plug jacket right there. Big D in the kids' table. Be like Max. I am a ska punk fan.
Yeah.
I love ska so much. How did you get into it?
I've always just been like a huge like nerd for music and stuff, but especially like, you know, like mid 90s and like 2000s like punk rock and stuff, which isn't really ska per se, but I mean just kind of given like the time period and stuff that like of music I was really into and like still into, it kind of just coincided with that a lot. Like there's definitely a wave of, you know, ska music that was really kind of relevant in those times. So I was like, oh, well, I like this stuff. It kind of like works with this stuff. Then like just like everything else, I kind of just discovered it.
Hell yeah. That's I know that you're a fan of the Aquabats, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you know that Travis Barker from Blink-182, he was the drummer?
Yeah. I mean, the Aquabats is like definitely one of the more main ones, but it's not really something a lot of people think about. So as soon as I say, oh, it's like I explain the Aquabats, and I'm like, yeah, this like whole band. It's like the ska band that like their entire shtick is like they're superheroes and stuff.
They have a fucking TV show.
Yeah,
They have
which I
all
fucking
this
love the
crazy
TV
stuff.
show.
Their show is incredible.
Oh gosh.
And sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, that's
I
all
don't
good.
know if you've noticed this, but I feel like you're looking over my shoulder a lot here.
Oh yeah.
This is
Yeah.
a Lego
awesome.
Bat Commander guy. There's only 500 made, and I have 2 of them.
Yeah, I saw
They-
that and I was like, I also really love Lego, so like I kind of thought I'm like, do I really want one? But I'm really jealous about that.
Yeah,
Like,
I
mad
have
jealous.
another one that's still in the package.
Yeah.
I haven't opened it, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I ever will.
Keep it that way.
I don't know if I ever want to sell it. I don't know what I
Yeah.
want to do with it. I feel like I'm just
Mhm.
gonna keep it in the package, and
Yeah.
But for anybody that's watching this, here's the Bat Commander.
Yeah.
I mean,
Good old Bat Commander.
can't really see it. He's hilarious. I fucking
Gosh, yeah. Like that's what I always told people. I was like, yeah, it's like this really weird thing, but if you want something really weird, this is the band that Travis Barker was in before he was in Blink-182, and like that's essentially how he got
literally
recruited.
right before.
Yeah, like I looked into this and kind of more or less like Blink was between drummers or whatever, and then they saw him and they were like, you need to be in our band. Like we're not taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
But I think it also kind of worked because apparently like a lot of the other people in the band were like, yeah, he wasn't really about like the whole costume and whatever.
No, he wasn't a fan of it.
Yeah, so
It's so funny.
I think he
like,
kind of looked for an opportunity not to.
yeah,
Yeah.
that dude's incredible.
Yeah, but yeah, he's talented as hell. He's talented as hell. So I mean, it's really good either way. And also, I didn't know there was a TV show for a really long time. I think I only discovered the TV show within the past year or so.
Yeah.
Because they started posting it like the entire thing on YouTube themselves, and I watched an episode and like tears were coming down my face.
It's
like,
so fucking funny, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I love it so much because it's a kids show. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be like a kids show, but it has such like funny, quirky humor
Mhm.
from it.
It's,
That's like,
yeah, like I really love the humor of it because it's like it's clearly meant for kids. Like I don't think anyone will argue that, but I think a lot of the humor kind of comes more for the adults in
Yeah.
the room. Like it's kind of like earlier seasons of SpongeBob where
oh, for sure.
yeah, where the dialogue it's meant for kids, but the dialogue is meant to keep the adults entertained too.
Yeah.
Which I love. Like one of my favorite things too is I love like it was a pretty independent produced show where like it didn't have the most budget ever, but I loved how low budget it was at times.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite things that was from their YouTube series that they did as like a form to crowdfund their next season, like the 3rd season that they're doing on their own. But there was a fight scene and the Bat Commander just gets thrown, but it's clearly just
it's just a dummy being thrown.
It's just like a dummy, and there was no attempt to like make it look believable or anything. It's just like it's clearly just like this lifeless body in a the Aquabats uniform.
It's
getting
so
thrown,
funny.
and they just put like the Bat Commander going like whoa hey over it.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
That show is incredible.
Oh, I love it.
And like the other thing that I love about it is if you watch like their first video for the like recruitment to make their
Yeah.
YouTube series, Jack Black is in it. A bunch of these
Weird Al's in it.
Dude, Weird Al.
Kate McCucci.
It's
gosh.
like all these A-list celebrity people that are in this. It's like these fucking guys found more people like A-list celebrities than a fucking movie. Like
Yeah.
it's incredible that this 6-minute thing, like they had Imagine Dragons like combing each other's hair. They had like
yeah.
it was so funny.
There was
like,
one episode, I want to say it was episode 1 of season 2, where Tony Hawk and Eric Costin were in it.
yeah,
And
just
they were just
hanging
like
out.
news reporters, like casually. And like the first time I watched it, I was like, wait, that's Tony Hawk. Like, what, did he just have like an afternoon free or something?
It's so
But,
crazy.
Yeah.
So I looked into the Bat Commander a little bit. So his name is Christian Jacobs, and he goes by a different name on Facebook. I think it's Parker Jacobs, but he actually made a lot of the logos for like skate decks and stuff, and like that's
Oh yeah.
kind of
That's
interesting.
cool. I didn't know that, but I know he was a child actor. Like I forget what show he was on, but he was on a
pretty big show.
yeah,
as
he was on a
kid.
pretty big like 80s like sitcom show, and he also created the kid show Yo Gabba Gabba,
Yeah,
which is
he
kind
did.
of which is kind of like how he got his foot in the door to do the Aquabats show.
Which is like kind of crazy, eh? Like Yo Gabba Gabba was huge.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is ridiculous. And if you look into I think it was the second or third album. No, it was the third album that Aquabats released. a lot of the characters from Yo Gabba Gabba are actually on the cover of it.
Oh yeah, and
So those were like all ideas that he had.
yeah, and I think a lot of like the monsters and stuff kind of like
Yeah.
were from like kind of like showed up in the TV show too. So like little Easter eggs, I guess, if you watched both.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that
Yeah.
like those guys are incredible.
Mhm.
I would love to see them live. I
same.
so regret it. They were in Toronto 2 years ago.
Oh,
And I fucking saw it online, but at the time I didn't know who they were, and I was like, "Who are these fruits dressing up in costumes? I don't want to see these guys." And now I'm like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
I want a costume and I want to go."
Yeah, same. Like I think like I've always been like as far as like, you know, bands and stuff and like musicians, I've always been kind of drawn to like bands that have like a really odd like aesthetic to them or just like a really like notable thing. So
Yeah,
the second I saw before like I even really knew what ska was, like the second I saw these dudes like jumping around like singing about, you know, skateboarding and, you know, whatever powdered milk is and stuff, but they're all dressed up in like, you know, like lycra wetsuits and, you
it's
know,
so funny.
and like fighting, you know, animatronic cactuses and stuff. I was immediately sold. I was like,
It's just so like ridiculous
Yeah.
to watch, and that's what I love about it.
it's so ridiculous, but like with them too, it's almost like I think even back then when they were just like doing this in the really early 90s or the 80s or whenever they started, they like I think they always kind of they did it kind of almost deliberately as like a way to think like, hey, this could be a kid show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. Well, because off their first album, The Fury of the Aquabats, they have a song which is like called Theme Song. And that is like what was supposed
Yeah.
to be the theme song for the show if they ever did it. And it changed, obviously. They have a way different show
Yeah.
like theme song now. But
Yeah, like but their entire like the entire like shtick of the band and whatnot, and the entire like kind of lore they had, like it made, and also like having like really kind of more innocence for songs or like not, you know, or having like more kid friendly songs and stuff. Like it seems like they were almost trying to deliberately like become marketable for a kid show or something.
oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool, man. I love those guys. They're awesome.
Yeah.
So that's all the questions I have for now. We're going to jump into these photos, but first I have one or two songs depending on how long I got to drain the main vein for. So we'll be right back with more from Chris Brown. And right now we've got Omnigon, If You Lived Here, and then potentially No Such Noise by with Goron City. So we'll be right back. Thank you.
Of coming down, but then you came and you saw and then you left. Now I walk through new towns, wasted, fucked up and proud of each creation, destruction, what comes next. Darling, all that I do in the absence of you, I check the boxes, but my list stays the same. And I can move forever with unwillingness.
Alrighty, and we're back after that short drain the main vein break.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about the Aquabats, and I wanted to show this off. This is a Aquabat album that I picked up. This is the first ever record that I bought. So just to give you a basic idea about what the Aquabats are all about. These
Yeah.
guys are incredible. Like, you know, it's a double LP. I collect records, so I love
Yeah.
like, you know, finding this, but
Yeah, that was a good one too.
it's really cool.
I think,
This is like their
I think that's probably my
main-
favorite one. Yeah.
This is everybody's favorite album
Yeah.
from them. This is like the first one they released, and it's the best, I would say.
Oh
You
yeah, it's
know?
got like I just like thought about it and I was like, yeah, that probably has like all like my favorite songs on it. So yeah, I need to grab that one.
Yeah, it's I don't think it's that hard to find. Like, have you ever heard of Sonic Boom in Toronto?
Oh yeah, that's probably like my favorite record
So
store.
I
ever.
found this there
Yeah.
actually. They have like a yellow version and a green version. I ended up getting the red one, which is really cool. But they've got songs like the Super Rad, Red Sweater. I love this song, Red Sweater. It's so cool. Like just the
Yeah.
way that Travis plays like the snare.
Oh yeah.
So much is so cool. And then Martian Girl, Powdered Milkman.
That's probably like my favorite Aquabat
Powdered
song.
Milkman.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, like that. Like I do. I'm a very mediocre guitar player, but honestly, like Powdered Milkman and just kind of Eagle Bones Falconhawk or
Eagle Bones, yeah.
or his real life pseudonym Ian Fowles or
Yeah, I
Ian
think it's
Foles.
Ian Fowles.
or Foles. He's a huge nerd for surf rock and stuff, so I immediately started like trying to play like more and more surf rock just because of him.
He's a lefty too.
Yeah, he's a lefty, but also the one thing I found out is he either has a master's or PhD in religion.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think it's technically Eagle Bones Falconhawk PhD. So
That's really cool.
Yeah. I don't know if he got if he is like a full PhD or whatever, but his dissertation or thesis was basically about, you know, religion and rock music, which makes a world
really
of sense
cool.
for him. But yeah.
Well, have you ever heard of the band Bad Religion?
Yes.
So Greg Graffin from Bad Religion is actually a university teacher for University of Los Angeles for biology, and I'm
no
like,
way.
that's
Yeah.
fucking crazy
I know,
that you're just gonna go into class and you have the biggest punk rocker in the world
Yeah.
teaching you.
That's so wild. Like you'd think for like a punk rock dude like Bad Religion, it'd be like, you know, politics or something.
Yeah,
But,
right.
I knew he was like someone in Bad Religion was really well schooled and stuff. I know someone had like a master's in PhD in paleontology, but
Yeah.
the one I always think is really cool is Dexter Holland of The Offspring. He was the valedictorian of his high school. He had a master's in molecular biology, but he was going to go for his PhD, but The Offspring started taking off, so he, you know, put that on hold.
Wow.
And he also became a commercial airline pilot.
That's so crazy.
And then I think it was like a year or two ago now, but like in the official statement from the band, just because they wrapped up like a huge touring cycle, and they said, you know, like we've been on the road for a really long time, like we've been like, you know, doing this for, you know, 25 years or so at this point. So like we're not taking a break. Like we don't even want to say we're taking a break. It's just we kind of just like want to not like be recording or touring for a bit. And they straight up said in the statement, yeah, it's because Dexter is going back to school to get his PhD. So
that's really cool.
yeah. So he has a PhD in like biology or something now.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we have quite a few photos that you sent over, which I appreciate, by the way.
No problem. Like I know you said 5, but I couldn't decide on.
I think
just
you
5,
sent
so,
over
like,
7.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
6 or
so-
7, but we'll jump into those right now. I'm just going to put them on screen for you guys, so give me 1 second here. I have to, like, clear everything.
Yeah.
Screen. So, minimize. When it does that.
Yeah. Tries the technology, right?
Right. Okay. working? Oh, it
Oh,
totally is.
hello?
Oh,
Okay.
oh no.
Yeah, we're back. You good?
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. We're gonna cut that out in post. We're gonna have to redo everything we did so far. Sorry.
Like
Okay.
everything?
No,
Yeah.
just the last part there.
Okay,
so-
yeah.
Cool.
I was about to say, like, we've been at it for 2 hours. Like, I'm cool to keep going. It's just, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no. Okay, so dirt bike photo. Let's go back here.
All right, so
What the hell happened? Oh, I feel so dumb.
It's all good. Shit happens. But anyways, yeah. So just racing moto offers a lot of downtime and stuff. Just kind of at this level, it's a lot of hurry up and wait sometimes. So naturally, started bringing the camera and just shooting and whatnot. So this is at a track in Cortland, Ontario, just not far from London, called Gopher Dunes, which is pretty much like one of the premier tracks in Canada.
Yeah.
So like honestly, just walking around, like I was just shooting a lot just because I wanted to just shoot more of this stuff, and I always wanted to have an opportunity. I'm always about these opportunities to just go out and shoot and walk around. But I was just being a sand track. I really just waited until I really just wanted to find like a turn that was just a little bigger than most, and just wait till someone was able to get on the gas enough just to leave that nice trail of sand right behind you, and just so it was all coming off the back.
It's such a cool photo. I like that one. Taylor really liked that one
Oh,
too.
thank
She
you.
said that was her favorite
Yeah.
out of all of them. Okay, so now we'll talk about the Red Bull photo.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was kind of different than the rest that I sent him because this was a school project and it was more a product shot where we had to do a splash. So, which on a side note, the one thing that was really cool about this, or the one thing I really digged, was between the strobe kit I was using, the camera, and the lens, I was using about 30 grand worth of gear and just throwing water around all over the place.
It's so
Which was
crazy.
awesome. Yeah, I was using a 1DX Mark II, which is a phenomenal camera. It's unfortunately stupidly expensive, but it's an amazing
the
camera.
body for that camera is like fucking 10 grand. It's
yeah,
ridiculous.
it's like $8,500. The batteries alone are $500 a pop.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
It's a phenomenal camera, but it, like everything, it comes with the price. So the idea was just put the can get the can set up and then just start splashing water around, which there's actually a spike, like a stand going through the back of it, so it's just held up and in place. And then I just started dumping water all ways or in every direction I could, just on burst mode, which doing that with lights going that fast is a really awful thing to do. Like it's honestly like seizure inducing at that point.
Wow.
So yeah, sunglasses were kind of important to have it that day. But then so it's kind of that, and then just water being water and kind of wanting to go all over the place. You obviously aren't going to get just that one shot you want. So there was a lot of post in this. So it was a lot of because it was supposed to look a little more, professional and commercial and stuff. There was a lot of posts just to kind of clean it up and, have the water almost frame the can more and more. So
yeah.
So I think in editing that was about maybe 6 different shots put together.
Wow.
Just to get one. And I think that like those 6, that was even I think out of like close to 1,000. So yeah.
It's a lot of takes just to get one photo. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Like, it's not something it's very rarely something you ever get first try. It's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next photo. So we have somebody doing a truck driver at
Yeah.
Inflow. Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, that's Jaden Chipman at the Station Jam. Obviously I was just running around shooting at that because, I was just hanging out for the most of the day, and it was, everyone there, especially Jaden, was just losing. Everyone was just, killing it. So it was really cool. The one thing I really like about this one, or the one thing the one thing I really dig about this one is you kind of get the idea of what's going on in the trick, but also you get a sense of like where the direction he's going and what he's doing. So it kind of helps out with what I was saying back in the beginning of this podcast, where with a good photo, you'll understand the entire, trick or the entire clip from just one still.
No, that's very true. This trick is like Whenever you're doing a 3, I always find it's very hard to understand what you're doing in a photo. But like this
Yeah.
photo really says exactly what
Mhm.
he's doing. You can tell that he's going
Yeah.
off of the box jump lip and then throwing the bars and landing on the other side.
Yeah.
You can't see the other side, but you know that that's where he's going.
Yeah, and I was also really like looking. I was also really stoked that I just kind of got that perfect moment of him like just halfway with the bar spin, just like starting to look over and kind of get ready for the landing. Like it just got that. I just kind of got that perfect moment, you know.
Jaden's unreal. That
Oh.
kid is so good on a bike. But anyways,
Yeah.
him doing like, the truck over this, it doesn't look that crazy, but that box jump is so hard to get speed for. And the fact that he's that high up trucking it is pretty crazy.
Yeah, like I think he was even like this wasn't even like something he was doing on his own. This was like mid line at something. So the fact that he even got like that speed for it was pretty astounding. Like I think even just in practice and stuff, I got something, but like I just got a shot of him that I thought was really cool. But he looked at it and says, "Oh, my arm looked a little weird. Let me do it again." And I was like, "Okay." Like I think it was like a three double whip or something, and I was like, "Okay, like you sure?" Like I think I'm
Yeah.
pretty stoked on this one, man. Like we can go again if you want, but it's up to you.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, he's way too good, man.
Yeah, that kid is unreal on a bike. All right, so next one here. So we got somebody doing
I don't even know.
it's a skate trick.
Yeah,
That's all we need to know. I
this
think it
is-
would be did he go over the rail or just
yeah, it
into
was it was like a over
over tail blunt, I guess.
something. I guess to the skaters of the world, you can comment on that or whatever, or email me. But anyways,
I feel like it would be a blunt because a nose blunt is where like your truck and wheels are on the ledge of the rail,
yeah,
but it's on the tail, obviously.
yeah.
So maybe it's
I think
just a
just
tail
backside
slide.
or,
Who
backside
knows?
tail or whatever. But this is my buddy Corey, who is an absolutely phenomenal skater. I don't know what this kid eats, but he can literally. I've seen him do like some really intense stuff, like first or second try. Like his warm up is like a switch tray or something, or like
Wow.
something like that, which is like he'll just casually throw warm ups. Or I saw him one day, he was trying to like ollie over like stacked up skateboards like out of the small Euro gap at Norton, and he had like I think 6 up, and then started like trying to like kick flip over it and stuff, and he like. So I think it's like 7 board. He was getting it first try every time, and then when it got to like the 7th board, he didn't get it first try, but he got second.
Wow.
And it was just like, anyone else would be at this for like all day.
Then
But
this kid's just
yeah.
going nuts.
yeah, and even but even like this shot, like I think this is like one of the cold when it started getting colder or whatever a few months back. But like a bunch of other buddies were sessioning it and stuff. A few of the Harvester guys and a few locals were just sessioning the flat rail. And he just rolled up. He just like showed up and did it. So I just got the shot, but. Like for literally just like a 1-shot deal that like he didn't even try doing again or whatever, like it came out amazing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, like this is also like one of the times where like having strobes was really good because this was pitch black out and the lights do shit at Norton, so having
Well,
the
you can
strobe really helped.
see that the light is like coming from
Yeah.
this area of the photo. So
Yeah, like ideally I would have like a second flash just on the other side just to kind of help even out the light a bit. But
yeah.
I mean,
I think it looks better with just one.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Most of the time.
Like it doesn't, like you don't need a ton. It kind of just helps out with like the lighting and just gives it like a highlight.
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty, next one.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about this. I had no idea. Like I saw this, I was like, "This is a really cool photo." But is there a story behind it, or just a cool photo?
It is kind of more or less a cool photo. It's something I did for a project, which of all things was kind of like I had to do a fashion like portraiture class a year ago, but this is like I kind of just wanted to go in this route just because like my teacher was more about just like, hey, just like do something more kind of more of like in your visual style, or like do certain things, like don't try to kind of be anyone else, like do anything else, or like just don't try to do anything that you're not about. So literally I just went out and did that. This was a really spur of the moment thing actually. This is a good friend of mine, Nate, who was like, a real street rider and stuff. And I kind of just like, I know like I was actually on my way to work. So this was kind of like a, hey, like if you just have like 20 minutes, would you be down to just like, just be a model for me and do your thing, which this was actually in the like one of the back lots of Sheridan, which he lived on res at the time. So he was like, yeah, sure, whatever, just grab me a coffee and we'll call it even. So I did that, and he said, like, what do you want me to wear? And I said, do your best Brandon Began impression. Which
that's a really good point.
Yeah. So like, I was like, I don't really know what your wardrobe looks like, but I know you'll probably have something that could work. No problem. If not, like, you could just, I have like some old moto pants you could wear, whatever, which I do have a really old pair of No Fear gear.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a flex nowadays, but I brought that, but he literally walked out with his bike and he looked the part. He had like, the sand camo pants on that were like really ripped up and stuff. Got had like some Vans old schools and whatever. And I was like, okay, you killed it. Which, like, I just wanted him like chilling and just kind of doing whatever, which, like, I think like just like the wide angle, like really low and stuff just kind of helps out. And the framing of just the background, which I think there's also a sign that says like no parking or something in the background. Yeah. Right there. It didn't end up happening, but I was really like trying to think, oh, what if you got you to sit in the dumpster? But
that'd be incredible.
Yeah, but I really thought of, like, I really wanted to do that. And he was kind of like thinking about it, but I think the dumpster had like a bunch of old like forklift pallets with like rusty nails and stuff.
Yeah,
so I was like,
you don't want to fuck with that.
Yeah, I couldn't in any good conscience do that. I like you too much, Nate.
So true. All right, so I think there was one more. So let's check this one out. Oh, clicked on the wrong screen.
Oh.
There we go. There. Yeah, we got two more after this.
Oh, cool.
This one and another one.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is just another one this is actually the Turkey Jam that goes on in Hamilton every year. This past year, this is I want to say his name's Devin. Yeah, it was another one of the Harvester guys. He like, we came across a spot where it was like loading. It was like loading docks for, I think, a brewery or something, but like spot was, there was like the transition for the one dock, and it kind of had like a little roller like box jump type deal. But then there was this. So everyone was kind of going like, oh, I'll, 180 like the first one, and then like try to do something fakey on that one. And like, oh, his name's Devin. I forget his name. I forget his Instagram handle. But this guy, you could literally say like, go do this on it, and he would just do it, and he'd just figure it out. So like, say go like do this or whatever, he just landed like he did 180 to fakey switch whip like first or second try or something, and I just from where I was, I landed up like, it was just a perfect shot.
It's a really good shot. I really like it.
I really liked it just because like the background was just so like, there wasn't a lot going on in the background, so like between the just kind of between the two doors and the framing and stuff, and he was just kind of like in this perfect spot for it, and the corrugated steel it wasn't really intrusive on anything, so it was kind of a nice picture. It was just kind of like a nice angle to have. I do a lot of architecture too, where the more I shot like architecture and stuff, the more I liked it. So I kind of ended up subconsciously doing a lot of kind of like looking for that stuff along with the shot as well. If I was in a perfect world, if I was going to critique my own thing here, I would have tried to light the front of him because it's a little too dark, but if it wasn't anything you couldn't fix in post.
Very true.
Yeah. Like, it's probably like, I actually really like for what it is, even though it's just a kind of like a random like one shot deal, it was something that just came out really well,
Yeah, I really like it. I think this is a really good photo, man.
Oh, thank you.
All right, I think this is the last one here. Yes, I think it is. So this is AJ, right?
Yeah, it's my good buddy / roommate / permanent house guest, AJ. This is another one at Norton, which I actually think it was done the same night as the shot of Corey, the skateboarder. Just sessioning it to somewhere else, and there's the rail at Norton, like the weird bank to rail thing, which is
nobody rides it. It's so hard to ride.
Very few people people have done like some really like wild stuff, have done some pretty impressive things on it. But it's just kind of an awkward setup, and it's usually where all the parents of scooter kids and stuff just go to like sit and lean on. So it's like not common to use, and it's a very like awkward thing to run because like, first off, like there's a bank on the one side like to rail, but it's kind of like really awkward to ride if you're not used to like riding transitionless banks and stuff. But the other side, it goes from like not peg height, gets peg height, then there's a weird kink, and then it just kind of becomes like a bar height rail at that point. So it is kind of awkward to do anything on. Like, but it's one of AJ's favorite things because he just has this weird affinity for finding weird rails and stuff. And it kind of became one of those things where like to like younger kids, it kind of became like the initiation for like, okay, you're actually like good at riding this park now if you can like do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she never got it. But my good buddy Cam, who scooters, he did the entire thing.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
like
crazy.
like on a scooter, and like, you know, obviously like you've obviously like did some handrails and stuff, so you know that like friction isn't really your friend.
Definitely.
And he
not.
literally from the other end of the park just ran at it, just hopped on, and then just did the entire thing. He didn't get it. He was like he was going in the opposite direction as AJ, so he was about maybe like 2 posts from actually clearing it, which he was only counting if he did the full thing.
Yeah.
Which fair enough. But I was like, dude, the fact that you're even getting close to this is impressive. Like,
yeah, it's a really hard rail to ride. It's in such a weird spot too.
it's really weird. It's kind of awkward, like because the one side isn't peg height and the other side's bar height. It's kind of awkward to find a way to hop onto it, especially from the other side. And then then the side AJ's on, it's a bit different. It's just weird transitions and stuff. So you're kind of like, it's not a hard angle, but it's hard to go at it with any real speed just because the lack of transition kind of kills any momentum you have. But yeah, this one, it was another night shot, which again, I just had the one light going. So it was just quick. It was just quick and dirty. You know, just kind of did it. He did it, I think, more than once just because I didn't really like the timing, which it annoys AJ to no end to do that, but he's also pretty patient about it. He's used to it by this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that a big thing that people don't think about is when they are getting, you know, photos or anything taken, they don't think about how much actually goes into it, you know, because for them, if they don't understand it, all it is that you just click a button and you have to click it on time. But there's so much that goes into it, you know, like I've had plenty of friends get frustrated with me because, you know, maybe they did a trick first try and I was like, I wasn't prepared yet. Like I shot it, but it's just not as good as it could be.
Oh yeah. Like, especially with, like, this wasn't so much. It was just more so like I just kind of thought, oh, you know, I could have changed like the setting. The lighting could have been a little better setting wise, or I could have like maybe just had a different angle at it, or moved, you know, 2 feet, like moved my angle like 2 feet to the side or whatever. It's a little more common in like skate, like in flip tricks for skateboarding, or like tricks where there is like motion, so like a bar spin and stuff, because you're trying to find like that specific moment, but you know, it's like you're trying to find a millisecond just out of, you know, out of like a lot, so the timing can be a bit tricky.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, this one, it's just like another like one speed light just on the side of him. And the one thing I kind of dig about this is like I used the 51.8.
Nice.
So like actually, like for that one and the same shot that Corey of the skater, like those were 2 like longer lenses, which you wouldn't really think are, you know, popular.
Ideal.
Yeah, or they're not necessarily ideal for, you know, or you wouldn't think they're ideal, but honestly, I love them. Like, yeah, like again, just being in that just being in that fixed focal length kind of makes you decide on things more. But also, the more I eventually like kind of started shying away from doing like fisheye or wide angle stuff, just because you see it a lot. So it was kind of some stuff that was a little more interesting to get like a longer shot.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, because you kind of just see more of it. So again, it's like, you know that he hops on, you see like where he you kind of have an idea where he started, and you know he's gonna, you know, eventually hop off. So it kind of helps out like set the environment a lot more.
No, I agree. Really good point. Yeah. So I think that's the last one. I'm gonna click to the side, but I think that's all of them. Yeah, that's all of them.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
So here, I'll just put the cameras back on us and. Cool, man. Well, is there anything else you wanted to chat about, or are we all done for the day?
I don't know, man.
Let's see.
I don't know, like, I mean, I could keep going if you have like anything, if there's anything you want to talk about.
Yeah, let's see. So, talked about ska. Oh, where are your favorite places to shoot photos? And what kind of stuff have you been shooting lately?
Just mainly, honestly, like as far as like anywhere specifically, just anywhere, like as far as like skate parks or whatever goes, it's just kind of anywhere I'm at if people are like down to shoot or people are down to, you know, shoot and do their thing in front of the camera for me. So usually it's more so I'm not really too concerned about where I am as much as who I'm with. So usually that's a little it's usually that's a little more of the better thing to do. And even then, if someone's down to like shoot or like, you know, hang out and, you know, do something in front of the camera for me, and cool with me, messing around with the camera settings and stuff for probably longer than I should, but then it's totally cool. Then I'm down to hang out with them. As far as what I'm shooting right now, just being in school and stuff and being winter, I've been shooting like more in studio stuff than anything, just trying to kind of experiment with more like just doing like more product stuff, just kind of add to my portfolio. And being in school too, I've actually been working on a larger thesis project where I'm kind of it kind of started with the idea of I want to photograph like all the half taken apart like stolen bikes that you see like in Toronto and stuff, but then it kind of morphed into a how-to series on how to steal a bike. And like, but like it's kind of done in like almost like this educational like manual style, but also like
how not to get your bike stolen. I guess
I've kind of done like both sides of it, but I've also kind of like studied like why it's done, or like why you see so many of these like half taken apart bikes and stuff.
Yeah,
so that's kind of been my main efforts as of lately.
No, that's a really good point. I think a lot of people are really dumb and they just leave their bikes out for way too long. Like myself personally, I don't even own a bike lock because my bikes come in with me everywhere.
Yeah, same. Like
it has to be a fucking foot away from you, man, at all times, or else it's gone.
Exactly. Like I mean, I think we're kind of in the same boat here. Most people like are in the same boat where our bikes are probably worth like $1,000 to $1,500 or even more than that,
or
like even closer to $2,000.
Motherfucker, I got Elites on my bike. My bike's worth like fucking $3,000.
Yeah, the wheels alone are like like $600.
Yeah,
but like especially where I live, like I live in North Burlington, which is like the expensive like rich area. So it's like I can like almost every day if I'm like out riding my bike, I'm leaving my bike outside of like a Starbucks or get something and just not chained up. Like don't even care. Like people are looking at it, but they're just like, oh, that's cool. Like honestly, I think like if a kid steals it, if a kid looks at it who would steal it, he'd probably be like, oh no, mommy, I want that bike instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, let's go buy it. And it's like, well, I'm thankful to live in a pretty good area and stuff, but like there's been so many times where like I'm cleaning out my garage or stuff and I go inside and take a phone call or whatever, and I'm leaving like all my bikes just in my front yard. So it's like I'm leaving like probably $20,000 worth of like bikes and stuff just in my driveway, and like it's still gonna be there when I get back.
Yeah,
2 minutes later.
That's fair.
Plus, like with the past 2 bikes I've owned, especially like being a pink one and being like a splatter one, they're very distinct.
Yeah.
So if it ever did get stolen, and like I know enough people where it'd be like, if I ever said, yeah, my bike got jacked outside of here, it would have like people would be like noticing very quickly if they saw like a bike that looks like mine that wasn't me riding it.
Oh, of course. Yeah, man.
So. Yeah, it's kind of the main thing. Then, like I'm kind of in between. Like I just finished up the one semester for school, so I got one more. So I'm kind of just trying to figure out what I want to do for next semester, and then that's it.
Hell yeah, man! That's really cool. Chris, I gotta say, huge thank you for coming out today. This is a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you for showing us about how you got into BMX photography and just talking to me about BMX. Like, it's a lot of fun just to sit down and speak with somebody about this stuff. So.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. Like it would definitely, like as you were saying when you texted me being like, yeah, hey, would you want to come on? You said it's been like years, and I was just like, shit, it has been like a really long time since I've really even hung out with you or ridden with you, let alone like just like sat down and talked. So it was cool to do this.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you, man.
No problem.
We'll see everybody tomorrow. We got Dustin Lee from Rodeo Peanut coming on. We're gonna talk a ton of shit just about everything that he's been up to. Chris, thank you so much.
No problem, man.
Hell yeah. Yep. Cool. We'll see you guys in the next one. Man. Peace.